I would like to call the October 2nd, 2024 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6 p.m. The first item on our agenda are budget hearings. Before we get started, under agencies, I would like the board to write in after CASA of New Hampshire will be end 68 hours of hunger. And then at the very end, you also need to write in the Greater Wakefield Resource Center. So we all have the same list. Okay, the first item is the welfare budget. And Amy? What do we got here?
I guess I'll say for TV, I'm Amy Capone-Lucio, the town's welfare administrator.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say about your budget before we begin going down?
No, I mean, it's hard to predict. My only concern is it's going to be hard to predict the cost of rent. Before, when someone would get behind, it'd be $1,000, and then you'd have $2,000 to get them out of default. But today, it's $2,000 plus.
Okay. Let's do the 100 series. Any issues with the 100 series? The 200 series? 300 series? 600 series, 800 series. And the first one I'm going to go to is 845. That's assistance for rent. And I'm wondering whether this is one that we should revisit towards the end to see where you are this year. That would be my suggestion.
We can do that. We did that last year.
Yeah, because it looks like there's only 28,000 plus used now and in the next month or so. So I'll make that motion is that we revisit 01-44410-845.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Point of information, Madam Chairman. Mm-hmm. So, do we, at the end of these, since I'm newly back, do we get a parking lot list of what we parked, or how do we get that list?
Yes, Amy's going to be doing the minutes, and she is going to do our revisit list.
I mean, for the entire budget.
She's going to do it the whole time, and she will have our revisit list.
Got it.
Okay? Anybody have any other comments about the 800 series? Okay. This budget has an increase of 4.88. All right. We only have that one revisit item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now start on the agencies. First one, Granite VNA. And if you'll just state your name for the record so the secretaries can get that.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Howard. I'm the Director of Donor Relations for Granite VNA. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Following up on the letter that we submitted, that we are requesting funding of $22,000 from the town of Wolfeboro to support home-based healthcare and supportive services delivered by Granite VNA. In order to provide services that are not covered by insurance and to serve those without the means to pay, Granite VNA conducts fundraising activities, seeks funding from individuals and private foundations, and requests funding from the towns that receive a substantial portion of subsidized care. So thanks to the citizens and the generosity of the citizens of Wolfeboro and other communities we serve, we're able to continue to offer services to those who need them. I do want to assure you that the Wolfeboro funds are used to serve serve Wolfeboro residents. And to share, last year, we served in Wolfeboro 198 patients. 184 of those were in Wolfeboro. 14 of them were in Wolfeboro Falls. But to be a little bit more specific, the funds will be used to provide hospice and palliative care services that are not reimbursed by third-party payers. We'll provide support to pediatric care management and maternal child health programs, which offer services to families with young children. We'll provide support for community clinics, including influenza vaccine clinics, blood pressure, and foot care clinics. In addition to these clinics, Granite VENA offers health and wellness education classes, and these efforts not only prevent communicable disease, but they connect uninsured residents with a regular medical provider. This will also provide support for general home care services for those who have inadequate or no health insurance coverage. In particular, these dollars help support the care given to patients with Medicaid. And then this is also going to help provide professionally led support groups to assist those who have suffered the loss of a loved one over the past year. So we gratefully ask for your support and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Okay, thank you for that. Board members, does anybody have any questions or concerns with the information we've been provided? Paul?
Just a question. Thank you for what you're doing. So the 3,100 or so visits is distributed across the 184 patients. Is that how I do the?
Correct.
Is that how I do the math?
Exactly. Whether that was a home health aide, a physical therapy visit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Good. So that's around 17, 18 visits.
Depending on the diagnosis
Per
or the
household,
need.
right.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
great.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions? What I'm assuming is we will go through these and if we don't take a vote in the negative, they'll just stay on. Correct? The board?
Correct.
Okay with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one is Meals on Wheels.
Hello, I'm Haley Mathis. I'm the program director for Wolfeboro Area Meals on Wheels, for those of you I haven't met. We have been providing meals for the town of Wolfeboro and beyond for 50 years this coming year. So we're very excited to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2025. In that note, we're serving 33% more individuals in the towns of Wolfeboro, Tuftonboro, and Brookfield than we were at the beginning of 2024. So that's in the last 6 to 9 months. We have increased our number of participants from about 60, 65 to 75, 80. We are providing about 15,000 meals a year now. We expect that to continue to increase as the needs of the area increase. Our participation is about 70% in Wolfeboro as of the beginning of the year and has risen to about 75% as of last reporting. So we continue to request the same donation, the same contribution from our participants as we have for the past 20 years. We don't know when we'll have to increase that, but with your assistance, we might yet go another year before we have to increase our rates to the people who receive our services. 60% of the people who are on the program currently in the town of Wolfeboro receive further assistance, so they are not just paying 40% of their meals, they may be paying 20% of the cost of the meal or even receiving free meals.
Wow.
All righty.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? It seems like you're financially in pretty good shape.
We are. We have been doing a lot of fundraising. We've
Good.
received a lot of really generous small grants from individuals in the area and beyond who have loved ones here. So
That's great, because I remember the years where it was in
it has
negative.
been skinny years. Yeah, there
Yes,
have been
yes.
some skinny years. So we're happy to report that we're in pretty good shape. We did receive about, I think it's about $250,000 endowment several years back. So we also, although we're not yet using the interest from that endowment, that is sort of a backup plan should our donation income come to a place where we need more assistance. We are paying more for the meals at Huggins Hospital now due to the increase in our numbers and just inflation. You know, everything's more expensive, so you know, we're happy that we haven't had to dig into our reserves quite yet.
Yes.
Good for you.
Board members, anybody else have any questions or comments?
I'm just going to say it once, because I could say it to every group that comes up. I am amazed, and I thank everybody that they've managed for all these years to keep level funding and still provide the same or more increased services for all their departments. Their
It's
welfare.
thanks to the town. It really is. The people here are amazing. We're very fortunate to be supported by this community, very much so.
Yes, it is the donations that come into all these nonprofits. It's unbelievable. Any other? Paul?
I'm just trying to keep weird math. The way I do it. So if I listen to what you said, and thank you for what you do, Wolfeboro, you delivered 10,000 or so meals in the town of Wolfeboro. Is that kind of pretty close?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You know, keep running the math. 10,000 meals, 10,500 meals, VNA touching 184 households. If you keep running the math here, you know, maybe at the end of this, we could do a one-pager that says, this is what we're doing, which is pretty nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and consideration. We appreciate your support.
Okay. Next. Tri-County on the phone?
The Wolfeboro Area Children's Center?
Good evening, I'm Terry Ann Cox. I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Center, and I'm pleased that we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. Just really quickly, 50 years ago in September, we opened our doors at the small but mighty American Legion and served 30 children, preschoolers, and we also had some school-age children before and after school. We, 50 years later, continue to serve this town and our families. We currently have 172 families enrolled or have enrolled children at the Children's Center. If we start to, again, multiply and do that math, we're really touching a lot of the folks here. 45% of the families are from Wolfeboro, but I think it's worth noting that more than the other half of the remaining 55%, those are families that are coming into Wolfeboro to work, and they're using the Children's Center as their place of service. As you know, we provide early education as well as early care starting at 6 weeks and running through the age of up to 13 with our before and after school program, which is now called fondly the out of school program as far as the state's concerned. We are requesting again this year level funding and would appreciate very much your consideration. One of the things that I started to share last year to change the narrative was to make sure that our donors, as well as those of you as select persons, know that we subsidize every child's tuition. As costs continue to go up, with those costs being driven by the pay that we provide our teachers, every family on average is receiving about $5,000 in subsidization. That is for everyone. Then, of course, above and beyond, depending on where people's household income is, they have the opportunity to apply to the state. And then, of course, we have Center Scholarship. One of the things that's been a game changer, just from an educational standpoint, and what I'm sure you know, is SB 237. That was a Senate bill passed last year where DHHS has structured their state scholarship provisions, casting a wider net and also going a little bit deeper and further in providing for families in need. As such, we haven't had to apply to individual accounts as much tuition assistance as we have in the past. But again, if you kind of run the math of $5,000 per child, you can see through our balance sheet that we do end up needing to close the gap every year. And so Last year, we did lose $190,000, which we did cover by drawing on our investments, and we will continue to see that gap year over year. However, I will echo, like the others have said, there's extraordinary generosity in this community, and we very much appreciate our donations, the grants that we receive, but also importantly, the amount that the town of Wolfeboro provides to the Children's Center. So I think I'll kind of stop there and see if there are any questions.
Selectmen, does anybody have any questions?
You got a fun fact?
Do I have a fun?
I'm counting somewhere between 70 and 80 families, Wolfeboro families is that kind of a good fun fact to use? They're served by you?
Currently, yes, I think that would be a very good fun fact.
Thank you.
In fact, I would think there's, approximately 81, but.
81.
81, to be exact.
It's a better number, we'll take it. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. Next one is Tri-County Community Action Plan.
I believe they are attending.
Hi there, we're on the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Can you folks hear me all right?
Yes?
Okay, great. Hello, I'm Jeannie Robillard. I'm the CEO of Tri-County Community Action Program. It's nice to see everyone again this year, and I really appreciate the opportunity for us to Zoom in and speak with you tonight, and for your past support. Tonight with me, I have Janae Smallwood. She's our new Municipal Funds Coordinator, and she'll be taking the reins and full charge of them hopefully by next year. But she's my sidekick for tonight. So in the sheets that we sent you, you can see that we served 322 households in Wolfeboro last year, mainly through energy assistance and through housing services, for a total of $277,010.47. If you want to break that down into fun facts, that averages out to be about $860 per household that we helped. And our funding is level. It will always be level until 2030. Several years ago, we came up with a basic formula to apply across all of the municipalities that we operate in, so that no one has to pay more than their fair share. In Carroll County, it's $2.25 per capita. Let me see, what do we offer? We offer you guys fuel assistance, energy assistance, that's electric assistance. We are also the lead agency for the Regional Coordinating Council in Region 2, which covers transportation and doing mobility management. We have guardianship services. We have the dental center, and there are quite a few folks that from Wolfeboro that visit our dental center. We offer reduced rates to low-income households and uninsured households and underinsured households. And we also offer housing services, and there is the availability of USDA distributed TFAP commodity foods to food pantries. So if you have food pantries out there that would like to be part of that program, please just give us, we'd be happy to help. Is there anything else that I can answer for you
Let me check with the
about what we
board.
do?
Is there anybody who has any other information you would like to hear from Tri-County Community Action? No, I think we're all set. Thank you for joining us by phone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and next one is Life Ministry Food Pantry.
Oops. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Good evening. My name is Bill Connors. I'm the president of the board of Life Ministries Food Pantry. As you probably know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we've been serving the community since 1985. We're overseen by a 15-member board of directors and operated by about 72 volunteers. Our mission is to provide access to food security to qualified members of the community with dignity and respect. We provide sufficient food to prepare 12 meals per week for each family member. We operate on a drive-through basis on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. The demand for our services has increased steadily and dramatically in recent years, and it really reflects the increase in inflation during that period and the impact of that on families in our community. In 2022, we provided 154,751 meal equivalents. That increased to 241,388 in 2023. During the first 9 months of 2024, we have provided 198,243 meals. So that's a year-to-date increase of about 19.5% over the same time last year. But the two-year increase, which is a period that roughly corresponds to the increase in the inflation rate, is shocking. It's 83%. In the early part of 2022, a distribution typically served 120 or 130 families. We routinely this year have served more than 200. During the two distributions in September, for example, we served 191 and 206 families. This morning, we had 116 added to the ledges. We're up at about 151, and when I left about half an hour ago, cars were still online for the afternoon session. We had 9 new clients just today. So the suffering of our community and in meeting their nutrition needs is very real and very much on the rise. As a result of both the increased demand and the increased costs, our food budget has also experienced major increases. Our budget for food purchases this fiscal year was $365,000, which is an increase of 73% from last year, and we fully expect that we are going to exceed that budget at the rate we're going. The food pantry is funded solely through grants and contributions, and we are very, very fortunate to live in such a generous and caring community. Although we purchase much of our food at low cost through the New Hampshire Food Bank, inflation has increased those costs and caused us to have to buy a lot more of our food on the open market. Despite the fact that our demand is growing, our budget is growing, in compliance with the budget guidelines, we are requesting level funding in the amount of $15,000. I ask for your favorable consideration of this request once again, and I thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors, our really extraordinary, hardworking volunteers, and most of all, on behalf of the grateful clients we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
I have a question. Is it the last quarter of the year where you get your majority of donations?
Yes, the holiday basket in the early part of December is our biggest fundraiser of the year.
Yeah. So anybody who's listening, this is the time to give.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any board members, any others? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Starting point?
Good evening. I'm Raitha Stoddard from Starting Point, the Outreach and Prevention Specialist. Last year, we provided 20,235 services to victims here in Carroll County, with serving 52 clients here in Wolfeboro. Starting Point provides free and confidential services that include shelter. We have a shelter, the only shelter in Carroll County that can provide up to 13 beds. We have enough for 5 adults and as many as 8 children. We're almost always full. But even when the shelter is full, if somebody in Carroll County is experiencing imminent danger, then we provide them with shelter in another way. We also provide court advocacy and hospital advocacy, transitional housing, financial assistance, financial literacy programs, support groups. And last year, we interacted with 5,900 students here in Carroll County with our Healthy Relationships program. So if you have any questions.
Busy.
Busy, very busy.
Board members, anybody have any questions or concerns? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next one, Kingswood Youth Center.
Good evening. Great to be here. Great to see everyone. I'm Zachary Porter. I'm the Executive Director of the Kingswood Youth Center. First of all, huge thank you to the town of Wolfeboro for many years of support of our work. Thank you so much. It goes a very long way. We would like to be considered for level funding in the amount of $5,000. We continue to serve youth in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, grades 7 through 12. So we're open to everyone in that age bracket in this school district, and everything we offer is completely free. We continue to offer our after-school program. That's our best known, longest standing program, and that's kind of definitely the main way people get their foot in the door. But what we're finding more and more is once they get started with us after school, people are taking advantage of our whole menu of services more and more frequently. We continue to offer our BTAS program beyond the after school. That's programs well into the evening, multiple days each week, as well as every single school vacation. We do our summer program. Again, it's all free, and it goes all summer. And we've actually reached a point where we offer as many weekly hours of service during the summer as we do during the school year. And that's big for us, because you might remember for a lot of years we were mainly a school year program, but no longer. Now we're 12 months, and it's been fabulous. We continue to do our individual mentoring program, Club 121. So that's one-to-one mentoring, Club 121. And we've changed that a bit. That started as a school-based program during the school year, and we've moved that following the pandemic to a center-based program that combines individual mentoring components as well as one-to-one, as well as peer-to-peer mentoring. We are continuing to operate our KYC Cupboard. That's our free food pantry. That was a new program coming out of COVID, and it started strong. So we decided it's here to stay, and it remains strong. So through that program, each year we offer anywhere from 14 to 20,000 pounds of free food to local teens and their family. And we also still have our KYC Closet. That's a free thrift store. It's its own little building, and it's lightly used clothing and accessories of a range of sizes and styles, professional wear, casual wear, athletic wear. That's very well utilized by teens as well as their families. The last few years, I came before this board stating that we've gradually expanded our programs since kind of we came out of the pandemic, and we're really proud to say we've maintained those expansions. So last year we offered 822 hours of free programs to local teens, and we are on track this year to match that. Last year we served 109 teens. About 1/4 of those came from the town of Wolfeboro. We continue to focus on life skills, so kind of hard skills, daily personal skills, as well as career readiness, goal setting, and financial literacy. We continue to maintain a focus on substance use prevention, so our partnership with Whitehorse Recovery is as strong as ever. Mike from Whitehorse, a certified recovery support worker, was with us this afternoon. We're busy getting ready for Red Ribbon Week, which is the end of the month. And really quickly, I'll just mention a new program that we're doing under that umbrella. We're now offering APGs, alternative peer groups, and those are support groups to provide support to teens whose lives intersect with substance use. So what that can mean is they're impacted by a loved one or a family member's use. Perhaps they're grappling with the ever-present realities of peer pressure and want support in that regard, or perhaps they've had their own active use that they wish to make the really positive choice to move away from. So both myself as well as Eric Moran, a certified recovery support worker from White Horse Recovery, both of us certified through UNH to offer those programs. We piloted in the spring, and they're going great, and we have served families from Wolfeboro, teens from Wolfeboro in a meaningful way through those programs. So we're really proud of that, and all the kind of mainstay programs we've done for years: fitness and recreation, arts and creativity, team building and leadership, lots of community service. We have some great new partnerships. We've maintained all our partnerships from years past, and we've also added Mountain View community. We've been doing more integration with the elder population there with our teens, which has been so fabulous. And then also the Carroll County Veterans Coalition has been a great new partnership through which we've exposed the teens to some of our local veterans, which has been a really enriching, awesome experience. We also receive funding from the towns of Ossipee, Tuftonboro, and New Durham. Again, thank you so much for many years of support from the town of Wolfeboro, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Does any board members have any question?
Just one.
Yep.
Can you put in your calendar August 8th, next summer?
August 8th, that's Lake Winnie Day?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's always selling.
Next one is Northern Human Services.
Good evening. My name is Valita Saraselli. I'm the Behavioral Health Director of Carroll County for Northern Human Services, which is a community mental health center with an office located here in Wolfeboro. We offer a wide range of psychiatric services to the community. We never deny anybody a service because of their inability to pay. Majority of our funding comes from insurance reimbursement, the biggest payers being Medicare and Medicaid. With that being said, unfortunately, insurance does not cover all of our services, specifically our 24/7 emergency services program, which is an incredibly valuable program to this community and Carroll County as a whole. We do offer a sliding fee scale for our clients that are either uninsured or underinsured. However, we still have quite a cost to that. As you can see in our packet, we served 179 uninsured or underinsured residents of the town of Wolfeboro for a total cost to the agency of $261,900 and something. The funding that we ask for Wolfeboro goes directly to those costs to help offset the costs that we have for Wolfeboro residents.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support.
Caregivers of Southern Carroll County.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Hunt. I'm the treasurer of Caregivers of Southern Carroll County. For over 35 years, we've been providing transportation to medical appointments for the residents of Wolfeboro, as well as Tuftonboro, Walton, and Ossipee. We provide door-to-door service, and it's at no charge to the clients that we serve. Over 90% of our expenses go to reimburse our volunteer drivers for round trips only of 50 miles or more. Our reimbursement rate for many years has been at 45 cents per mile. Yeah, it has. And for the last 3 years, with the spike in gas prices, we have actually been providing a 10-cent per mile supplement for those trips, which we are continuing to monitor. All of our drivers and coordinators are volunteers. And the other thing I would add is, in addition to those trips that we reimburse and we're asking for funding for, we do many, many more miles of driving for trips that are less than 50 miles round trip. And because they're short-term trips, they tend to be centered around Wolfeboro and for Wolfeboro residents. So even though we don't reimburse for that and we're not asking for funding for that, it's an integral part of our organization and of the service we provide, particularly for Wolfeboro. We don't do any fundraisers. We rely on our funding from the 4 towns that we serve. We also get funding from one charitable organization and from individuals who send in donations. And many of those are from people that we have given rides to, which we get the donations with some lovely letters thanking us for the service we provided for them or a family member and how important it has been to them. We are asking for the same $4,000 that we've asked for the last couple of years. And I would note that even though Wolfeboro is one of the 4 towns that we serve, Wolfeboro typically accounts for over 1/3 of the amount that we reimburse our drivers for. And in fact, as of tonight, year to date, out of the total reimbursements that we've made so far, it's been almost 35% just for Wolfeboro reimbursements. And we've actually already paid out for Wolfeboro trips over $4,500 with 2 months still left to go. So we've been very grateful for the town's support. We continue to ask for it. And just in terms of the service, again, people who need to get to medical appointments, whether it's a doctor, a dentist, an eye doctor, particularly people that are aging and want to stay in place in their own homes, it's important to have that service available to them. And unfortunately, situations which we have, people that are recovering or dealing with a long-term illness or recovering from an injury, they can have 2 or 3 appointments every week that go on for weeks or even months. And even if they have friends, neighbors, family that can give them rides, if people are still working and whatever, it can be really hard for those people to get that help and get that transportation. And I can't imagine the stress of dealing with that kind of situation and then having to worry about how do I get to where I need to go to get the help I need. So caregivers can supplement or help take that stress away from them. And we really appreciate the town's support over the past couple of years and hope that you'll continue to provide that for us. And I would probably be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have a question?
Have you seen your need go up over the last several years?
It actually, right before COVID, it was going up. We actually had increased, we asked each of the towns to give us $500 more. When COVID hit, because people weren't going to medical appointments or whatever, we really cut back almost completely on our service, except for people that needed to get to things like chemo. Our drivers were still willing to do that. So we actually dropped our request down because we weren't spending all the money we were getting. It has been building back up again in the last year or so, and it is continuing to increase. This year in particular, our reimbursements are back up over where they've been the last few years. But prior to COVID, yeah, the need was definitely increasing.
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, I would expect that if you go back up to the $4,500 sometime, I personally would support it when the need is there.
No, but I know that, I mean, we want to be fair to the towns too. I mean, you know, because we weren't spending that money for a couple of years during COVID, we did build up our balance sheet. The year before COVID was the first year ever that we actually had net income for a year. Before that, we've been breaking even almost every year. So this year is going to be a little touch and go, depending on if we get the rest of the donations that we're looking for, but we should be right around break even again for this year.
Board members, anybody else have any
We're
questions?
happy to take more money.
Yeah.
And if anybody's looking for something to do, we're always looking for volunteer drivers.
Okay, well, I hope there are some more drivers out there for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, dinner bell?
Hi, I'm Carol Simpson, I'm vestry person in charge of the dinner bell at All Saints Church and weekly volunteer. The dinner bell is a program that is housed at All Saints, and it is to, I should probably just read what Pastor Bill sent. Knowing that hunger presents itself both physically and relationally, Wolfeboro Dinner Bell, a collaboration of churches and community members, offers an opportunity to feed and strengthen the fabric of our community. We gather weekly with neighbors new and known for conversation and to share a meal prepared by professional chef and community volunteers. All Saints Church serves as the fiscal agent and nonprofit sponsor for Wolfeboro Dinner Bell community meal. In the last fiscal year, volunteers covered 204 shifts, and our paid chef served 1,579 meals. We received 8,600 in donations from people who attended and from groups in town. All Saints provides administrative and supervisory support and the use of the facility at no cost to the program. Each week, we are serving 50 to 60 meals each Thursday night. We have a sit-down dinner at 5 o'clock, and we provide meals for 50 to 60, which includes the sit-down and take-out meals for those who are in need of a meal or just want a meal. We are asking a request of level funding of $6,000 to support the program, and our expenses our income this past year was $12,900 plus, and our expenses about $13,680. So we had a deficit of about $750, which is absorbed by All Saints Church. As a volunteer, I just am amazed each week at the commitment of the volunteers and of the chef who does all the shopping and does all the food prep, and people are there. There's 9 to 10 of us there every Thursday afternoon from 2 o'clock till 6:30, 6:45, helping the chef to do preparing, setting up, running the dishwasher, which is quite a task, and doing the cleanup and so on. But when you see the people who are coming, it seems to be a very consistent group of people. Some who are there because they want the socialization and talking with others, and others who really need that meal. We have one family of 6 that is there very faithfully, and when they can't come, they call us and let us know they can't come that night, so that we're not setting up that extra table for them. It seems to be a very consistent group of people. However, a few weeks back, Pastor Bill purchased a sign to put out on the front lawn every Thursday night. And the first night that sign was out, all of a sudden there were an extra 15 people there. So word got out. But we are once again asking level funding of $6,000 to continue with this ministry. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to thank All Saints Parish for doing this. When the town was having a hard time keeping this program going, All Saints stepped in, took the finances, and have kept it going, and we should be thankful to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Any other board members?
And it amazes me that I just did the numbers. Your meals you provide cost $5.45 for a healthy meal prepared by a chef for dinner. That's amazing.
It's a soup and a full course dinner, and then dessert is donated by volunteers that make cupcakes, brownies, etc.
And it's every Thursday night?
Every Thursday night. Right.
Okay.
Our food cost alone last year was $6,000. no, I'm sorry, was $6,800 for just the food costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. CASA of New Hampshire? Are they on? No, okay. We'll set that aside, and we'll have Amy contact them. And 68 hours of hunger?
Good evening. I'm Jan Brooks, and Eileen Levitt and Carol Simpson are over here, and we're the 3 program coordinators for N68 Hours of Hunger. Sorry. All right, let's start again. Okay. I'd like to also thank Wolfeboro community for all the support that they have given us. It's been almost 11 years that we've been in the community, and just you have been significant to our growth and all of our support, so thank you. Our nonprofit organization works to confront the approximately 68 hours of hunger that some children experience between the lunch that they receive on Friday in school until the breakfast that they receive Monday morning in school. Our vision is to provide weekend food for an average of 145 preschool through grade 6 students each week who are at risk of food insecurity. We serve the children in Wolfeboro, Brookfield, Carpenter, and Crescent Lake, Tuftonboro, Middleton, Ossipee, Effingham, and Ossipee Head Start and Ossipee Crossings. Each child receives a bag of food on Friday afternoon that consists of 3 dinners, 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, and snacks. Our organization is run solely by 45 to 50 volunteers, which consists of retirees, staff from the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, and students from Brewster Academy. Our volunteers are involved in such tasks as purchasing, picking up, bagging and delivering food, fundraising, keeping communities informed, and documenting financial expenditures and donations each month. The Governor Wentworth School District continues to be a very important part of our program and very supportive. They provide buses and their drivers who will pick up the food at our site at All Saints Church, and then they deliver them to the elementary schools. In addition, they've identified one of their counselors to be a liaison between our organization and the elementary schools, and they are in touch with the counselors at the schools, who in turn then talk to the administrators, the teachers, and the health providers to find out how many students are in need of our services. The cost of a weekend bag of food is $16 per child. Last year, the average number of students we had was 141 children. For $16 a bag each week, it cost us $2,256 a week. For 37 weeks, which is the school calendar year for us, it cost us $83,472. Plus, we serve 33 students over the 5 weeks of the summer. And the addition cost us a total of $86,112 for the total. Our local communities are very supportive financially as well as publicly. We hold an annual appeals drive, a major fundraiser, and are sponsored by local businesses that our communities participate in, sponsor, or provide financial support. Our financial obligations are solely to purchase food, bags, and bins, with 5% of our monthly proceeds earmarked for the administrative costs of the executive director of the whole program, which is, she oversees 47 chapters. Our chapter of N68 Hours of Hunger has worked hard to provide the children in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District with weekend food. We are continually reflecting on what we do, celebrate our successes, and think about what we can do better. As mentioned, over the last school year, we provided weekend food for 141 children during the school year and 33 children who attended summer school. We have known the need for providing children with food for the weekends during the summer has been much larger than the population of children that attend summer school. As a result, this summer we launched a new offering by reaching out and providing bins of bags of food at various locations within the Governor Wentworth Regional School District towns. Town libraries, schools, churches, and individual businesses offered to be a pickup site over the summer months. Having the various locations increased the number of students we were able to reach, from 33 students during the summer to 75, and we're certainly hoping that that's going to grow each year. We plan to continue the additional site locations, and we thank all those who joined in partnership with us this summer. The Wolfeboro area included Duran Insurance, Wolfeboro Public Library, and the First Congregational Church of Wolfeboro. Wolfeboro has always been very supportive to our program, and we thank you for your generosity. During the 2023-24 school year, we had 18 students from Wolfeboro. It's $288 per week for a total of 37 weeks, $10,656 for the students during the school year. We had 5 students over the summer, and that added another $400 for the 5 weeks. So for the total of the Wolfeboro cost, it was $11,056. To continue to provide bags for children at risk of food insecurity, we are asking the town for level funding of $5,000 for the upcoming budget.
Any board members, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Children Unlimited.
Good evening. Shelley Rondeau. I work for Granite V&A, but I am representing Children Unlimited because we have a contract with them. So Children Unlimited is the resource center for Carroll County, and they provide services for young children 0 to 18. They provide in-home services, the kinship program for grandparents, referrals in service coordination. They provide the supervised visits for DCYF. And they're asking for a level funding of $2,730. They served 18 families last year in just Wolfeboro, with a total of 237 families being served in the whole county. I provide them with a nursing part of their services, so all the 18 of these families were seen by me, and they get anywhere from medical consultation to, making sure that they know how to get set up with WIC and all the resources and growth and development, that kind of stuff. So, and they really appreciate all your support, so.
Thank you.
Board members, any comments or questions? Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Shelley.
Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association. Okay, put that off. Yes, Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association. Okay, and the last one is the Greater Wakefield Resource Center. Are they the?
You're up.
My name is Amanda Beaver, and I'm the treasurer of the Greater Wakefield Resource Center. And as many of you know, I can usually tell a long story, but because of the hour, I shan't. All I am asking for is what basically is Wolfeboro's share of what we fell short last year serving congregate meals to the over 60 group. We have residents from all of the surrounding district towns for Wakefield come for congregate meals on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that's the whole point of what we're asking for. We do a lot of other services for a lot of other things, but tonight I'll cut that short. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to try it one more time. We do not have anybody here from the Lakes Region VNA. Okay. We are done with the budget hearing part of the agenda, so we will now go into our regular meeting. And Mr. Pinio, do we have any need for a non-public session?
Madam Chairperson, we do RSA 91A3, lowercase c, reputation.
Okay,
Okay.
here we go.
Okay.
Okay, we have the minutes of September 4th.
One there. I think I weren't here.
Kind of shift our papers here. Let's see. Does anybody have any corrections? I've written down on page 7, so let me see what that was. Brad, on page 7, when we were authorizing the extension for the ARPA grants, did you vote on that?
He did not.
Yes.
No, you,
Oh, no, that's right, I did, I'm sorry.
I think it should say I think you stepped down from those.
he did.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to have that, that's the correction I have, that we should somewhere get it written and you stepped down because you gave the presentation on it.
So that vote should be 3-0 then.
Yep, that's what my feeling is. And I'll get, and it has to say that you, somewhere says Mr. Harriman stepped down, because then you don't get in the vote.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other corrections? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Dave, seconded by Brian. Are there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
One abstention, I was absent.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to open up a public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, on or about 6:30, we wish, in the Great Hall, Wolfeboro Town Hall, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider the application for issuance of an alcohol beverage permit to the Lakes Region Newcomers Club for a club event on October 22nd, 2024, at the Abenaki Ski Lodge at 390 Pine Hill Road from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak to this? Come on up. Just state your name.
Hi, thank you. My name is Tracy Kolb. I'm co-chair for the Hospitality Committee, and we have a new member gathering meet and greet, and we rented the Abenaki Lodge for this event and applied for the permit for a BYOB.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing on alcohol beverage permit? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any comments or questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move we approve an alcohol beverage permit Lake Region Newcomers Club. A club event October 22nd, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge, 390 Pine Hill Road, from 4 to 9.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who gave me the second? Was that you, Brian? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have your permit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll open up the next public hearing. Do you need something else?
Sorry. Do we need a physical permit to show?
The secretary will send you stuff.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah, okay. All right. I'll open up the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2024, at approximate 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall, Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, for the acceptance of unanticipated donations in an amount that is over $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B3a, related to the donations received for Lake Winnipesaukee Day event in the amount of $14,500 from the following, and I'll let Brian read the names and make any comments.
Okay, so we have a big, long list of donors this year. I'm going to start with Amoskeag Beverage, then Taylor Community, then Maxfield Real Estate, then Eastern Propane and Oil, PSI Plastics, then Goodhue Boat, Clean Cut Construction, Leone McDonald and Roberts, Brewster Academy, Wolfeboro Corinthian Yacht Club, Paul Zimmerman and family, Lewis Property Management, Winnipaw Station, Marker 21 Restaurant, the Wolfeboro Dock Company, the Wolfeboro Boat Company, Winnipesaukee Equipment Rentals, Berkshire Hathaway, Hunter's Shop and Save, the Hewitt family, the Colander family, Forloon Properties LLC, the Hirschberg family and the Wall Hirschberg family, the Wilson family, Walker and Varney, and that's it. That's a lot of donations.
Yes. Okay, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any comments? Not, can I have a motion?
Move to accept all of those donations.
I have a motion by Paul. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we've got through that. Just find my agenda. All right. Next item on the agenda is the bulk vote. Weekly manifest, September 13, 2024, $254,497.09. September 20th, $229,565. Oh, did I say $229,565.60? And September 27th, this has a school payment, $1,423,636.63, and we have one intent to cut. Board members, can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the bulk vote, items A and B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brad, second by Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one is board and committee appointments. We don't have any. The first item on the agenda is the library solar, and I'm going to make a motion that we table that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Dave, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Next one is the Energy Committee update.
Why we turn it?
The top one? The bottom one, okay, great, thanks.
Hi. You ready for me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Nancy Hirschberg. I live in Wolfeboro and chair of the Energy Committee. And every once in a while, I try to come and update you on the committee's activities to make sure we're not off the rails here or anything. And in addition to that, we had like your input on something tonight. So why we're here tonight, as one of only 6 communities in New Hampshire with our own electric utility, we're in a really unique position to innovate and to the benefit of our residents and businesses. We see an opportunity to install some solar and energy storage and potentially save a lot of money for both ratepayers and taxpayers. So as a reminder, the Energy Committee was formed, I think, in 2007 to identify opportunities for the town and its residents to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to work to assure that cost-effective energy efficiency practices and greenhouse gas reduction strategies are implemented town-wide. We've been involved in a lot of different activities over the years. We've set up energy tracking for the municipality so we could understand where our energy was used. We applied for and received a bunch of grants over the years to install energy efficiency measures in town buildings, perform audits, and do energy planning. We expanded solar through a solarized program in Wolfeboro. We installed a wonderful public EV charging station. We know there were, today, we know that there were 2 people. No, it's been very, very active, not just 2 people, but 2 today at one point we noticed. We've done a lot of community education, strategic planning around our community's energy goals, and last time we did the master plan, we had the first time we had an energy chapter, and we started the Warmth and More Fund to help those in need in our community. So our approach has been to look for opportunities to leverage grants and incentives and private donations to help save the town, ratepayers and taxpayers, energy and money. We've brought in or saved the town hundreds of thousands of dollars since the committee began, and that's on a budget of roughly $400 a year. This is just an example of the EV charger that was done with all private donations. And also, I should say that we are charging a little extra on the charge so that by the time it comes for it to be replaced, hopefully we'll have enough money saved up to do that. I just have to recognize the extraordinary committee. Every time Amy puts out a notice that there's a position, another amazing person comes forward. In our little town, we have incredible expertise, shocking expertise that towns are very jealous of. People who are executives for renewable companies, who work in energy efficiency and energy storage and so forth. So I'm really grateful for the committee as well. We work extremely closely, probably more than he wants to, with Barry and Jeremy at the MED.
Yeah, pretty good.
In the master plan, as I said, we had an energy chapter, and this is really what we use as our roadmap. So every year we re-look at it when we make our plan for the year. And right now we've been really focused on the renewable energy goal. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight here. Just as a reminder and acknowledgement of the great job that Barry has done, what this chart shows is the second green box there is when our Barry goes out to bid on our electricity, and that's when he was supposed to bid. That's when the next contract started. Watching it very carefully, he realized it was a great opportunity, and so he went out to bid early at that first green box, and that's about $40 per megawatt hour. He locked in at that $40, and then you can see what the next 3 years did. That saved so we were locked in at that lowest rate, and and while the rest of the region was paying those higher prices, we were locked in at that. So we've had the lowest price in the Northeast for many years, thanks to Barry. In January of '27, our new contract, we'll have to have a new contract or an extension. We can't count on having that price for, at that point. So we want to be ready, and so we've been working on some other opportunities to reduce electricity costs. So there are two opportunities that we're working on right now. The first is the Wolfeboro Public Library. And we've developed a plan to install a 76 kW solar system on the library. I'll show you where we're at on that in a moment. And then the second project is a much larger scale, which Barry will tell you about, which is installing solar and energy storage in town, which has the, we won't know until we get real final numbers, but we've had some initial conversations that have shown that it could save as much as $12 million over 20 years. So I'll just brief you on the library solar before Barry does the storage. So the cost of the system is $168,000. This will go on the roof of the library. We added a 5% contingency, brings it to $176,531. The Wolfeboro Library Foundation has already raised $50,000. Just last week, we received a grant from the USDA for $46,800. And then from the Inflation Reduction Act, we get reimbursed for 30% of the cost of the project. That comes to around $53,000. So I still have to raise another $27,000, and if anyone, we're taking checks, then we'll be able to move ahead with that, or with that project. So that's where that's at now. We've modeled the savings over the life of the 25 years of the panels. Halfway through, we'll have to replace the inverters, most likely. We've budgeted $500 a year for maintenance. We really don't expect it to be that, but just to be safe. And also budgeted $883 for insurance. That would come to net savings over 25 years of between, depending on what happens with our electric rates, of course, between $276,000 and $323,000 for that project. So now I'll hand it over to Barry to talk about the solar and energy storage. I'll just put it on the next one. That's it.
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening, Barry Muccio, Wolfeboro Electric Department. Just to give you an update on what the solar project in Wolfeboro is looking like. I think you all know we issued an RFQ. I should say the Energy Commission Committee issued that RFQ, just kind of looking at what are the possibilities out there for Wolfeboro on municipal-owned lots. We own some fairly decent properties that were potential candidates. One looking at the landfill, potentially some sites on Filter Bed Road around the treatment plant, wastewater fields, some at the water treatment facility up on North Line Road. So we recognized and identified, I think there was 5 sites, Abenaki, also another one that had some potential for some solar installation. So we reached out to several vendors. Hey, this is what we have for sites. Any ideas? What do you think? What size could we accommodate? We got some really interesting information back from, I think there was at least 4 vendors that we chose to interview. A lot of great information, a lot of information for a small group that all has other projects and workload in mind, to sort of, figure this stuff out. How is this going to work? What's the best panels? What's the best company? Where do we interconnect? Where do we get the most bang for the buck? So with that, I guess I skipped one here. We did a bit of an interconnection study on the MED end to find out if we were going to look at sites on Beach Pond Road and North Line Road, would our system accommodate it? What would have to be done to our electric system up there? We know it's 4 kV, so it's not the best condition. And so I did have our engineer sort of give us an estimate. I think you probably seen it on our 10-year work plan that it's in there for approximately 1.2 million if we had to rebuild the infrastructure on Beach Pond Road. But it's one of those projects where it's reaching its sort of end of life cycle anyway. So with that, we got a price. We knew what it's going to cost if we were going to put a large-scale solar up on Beach Pond Road to interconnect and allow that to happen. So here we are now. We have this information. We have the interconnection study. We have potential sites. And we felt, and I was sort of a strong believer in the idea that if we had a third-party consultant come in, I think it would be best for the group to have this consultant come in and sort of do the third-party evaluation of these proposals that we're seeing, of these sites, disseminate a lot of the information, and make a recommendation to us. So that's sort of where we're at right now, in hopes that the consultant could help us bring a project forth to the voters, if economically that makes sense at the time of whatever the electric rates are proposed to be as a result of the solar and/or whatever we can buy it off the grid for. And I've always specified that if you can prove to me that we can generate our own electricity in-house, either equivalent to what the market for electricity is out there, what the grid price is, then I'm all for it. So I've always kept that sort of as my mantra. If you can prove to me that we can build a system or use some storage benefits of that system to offset some of our demand, then I'm all for it. So I think this is the next step for us to see what's out there and see if it makes sense and if we should move forward in the future. So I don't know if Nancy has anything else to add, but if not, I'll answer any questions.
Any selectmen have any comments or questions? Brian?
I have one question. Nancy, could you explain a little bit about Drive Electric?
Sure.
That's you.
Okay. Also, I should just say that we've raised the money for hiring this consultant as well. Yes, Drive Electric. One of the committee members. Every year there's a Drive Electric Week, and that was last week. And one of the committee members held a Drive Electric Fair week, a fair down at the Chili Fest. And there were 9 electric vehicles, which is pretty good for the first time. And people came through all day long and checked them out, including we had a Volkswagen from our own Brian Duchesne, even though his son got married that day.
We had a Mustang, we had my Volkswagen, we had a Cybertruck, we had a Chevy Bolt, some Model 3s, Model Ys, and a Model S Plaid. And if anybody knows what that means, that's the fastest production car made. It's 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds. Wow. And it's a beautiful, comfortable car, too.
Any other board members have any? Yes?
I have a question for Barry. Thanks, Nancy. Great job. I thought going to Plaid was on Spaceballs, isn't it? No, that was a different. Barry, I'm not sure I understand the comment about the consultant. Is it because is it a utility scale project that you're trying to figure out how to do interconnection and all that stuff, or are you trying to prove a different economic model?
No, it's not necessarily interconnection. It's not the physical engineering and such of that. It's more of the economic model and looking at various options out there. Do we combine a generation size, a large 1 megawatt system? where do we gain the most bang for the buck? Do we combine that with a storage battery facility, an ESS
That was going to be my
system?
second question is, there's been a reference in the documents of storage, and I haven't heard anything about that. So what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly was something that many of these vendors who came to us brought up, that, you know, some of these storage things, what we can save probably a lot more money in the storage, offsetting some of our demand if we can hit that peak. And there's a potential there that we don't really have to do a lot. We have them bring in a skid-mounted, you know, electric storage facility that we don't even own, but we get some benefit. We split the profits. So
I got it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So
I got it.
Yeah, an example is that we used a battery generator for Lake Winnipesaukee Day, which was 24 kilowatts, and that battery powered all the speakers, all the laser lights, the DJ, and for 5 hours, and it only used 23% of the battery capacity. And it was amazing. And the thing they said that they liked about it the best was clean power. They said it was so much cleaner than using a regular generator. So they said that they loved the quality of the power and its efficiency. It was amazing. So battery storage may be something of the future.
Any other comments?
Thanks, guys.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the next item. We have an appointment by the Wright Museum, tax exempt approval. Is anybody here to speak to that?
Yes, I am. My name's Andy Mako. I'm the chairman of the board of the Wright Museum, and I'm accompanied by about almost all the board on this side of the room. This is a very important issue for us, so we welcome the opportunity to talk to you about it tonight. I assume you received my letter of September 25th, 2024. I want to summarize a couple key points and provide some color to you on some of the items in that letter. So as you know, the museum's required, like all nonprofits, to file an A9 and A12 every year, and these filings pertain to the real estate owned by the museum. The filings have been completed by the same person for many years at the museum, the same staff person. The filing, the individual was dealing with a significant health issue, a family health issue at the time that the A12 was due. She was also dealing with a shortage of part-time staff. She manages that handle the front desk and gift shop. And one long-term employee was diagnosed with a terminal illness and was in the process of being replaced. And the other stayed in warmer weather longer than she typically does. So we were shorthanded in the museum during that period. So as a result of some of these distractions, the A12 form was filed late. The primary information contained in this filing is a list of board members and the financial statements and tax return for the prior year. In our case, the financials are not available by that date because we file an extension to October 15th every year. And so the only information that was contained in that A12 filing was a list of board members. The financials and tax return were filed on September 17th, when they were completed by our accountant and approved by our board, so a few weeks ago. The legislation in existence at the time did not allow for any late filing exceptions to be granted due to accidents, mistakes, or misfortune. So Todd, the tax assessor, recommended that the museum not receive a tax exemption for its real estate property. However, I believe this is the first year that missing a filing date has become an issue and being enforced. The legislature seemed to realize that this penalty could be rather punitive and passed legislation on July 12th that allowed local officials to give more discretion when evaluating the causes of a late filing. The legislation was sponsored in February 2024 by Representative John McDonald, who's here tonight in the back of the room, and he was.
He moved up front.
He moved. And he's here tonight if there's any questions about that legislation. But this legislation is not effective until April of next year. So we're kind of caught in between the legislation changes. When our late filing was reported to the Board of Selectmen in August, I don't believe there was any discussion of the magnitude of the penalty. And our Center Street property, we have two properties. Our Center Street property is assessed at $3.2 million, and our Trotting Track property is assessed at about $200,000. So a total of about $3.4 million. As a result, the penalty for this late filing is about $50,000 using current tax rates, which is more than 10% of our revenue. As a result of the discussions with the tax assessors 2 years ago, when we were when this became more of an issue as a result of what happened in Ossipee, the use of this Center Street property was deemed to be consistent with our mission and therefore was totally tax exempt. The Trotting Track property consists of a building and 33 acres of land. The building and a portion of the land was deemed to be support the mission of the museum. The remaining land did not, and we're paying taxes on that portion for the last couple of years. So what may not be obvious is that the museum contributes to the community in many ways by bringing people to the town who spend money in the businesses in town. We don't compete with any of the businesses in town because we don't serve food, and and our gift shop carries items that are fairly unique to the museum. We also don't receive any funding from the town, so we're different than a lot of other presentations we were listening to. We don't receive any funding or ask for any funding from any government entity. You know, as I referenced in my letter, there's been several studies conducted that demonstrate the positive impact that museums have on communities. And if you use the metric that I cited in the letter, and you assume we're going to attract about 18,000 visitors this year, who will spend about $250,000 at the museum between admissions and the gift shop. And that equates to over $500,000 in revenue for other businesses in town. And of the 18,000 visitors we expect to have this year, some portion of them would not have even come to the town if it weren't for the museum. So this is all incremental revenue to some of the businesses in town. In addition, the museum spends about $100,000 at local businesses, with local businesses like Green and Granite Landscaping, Santoro and Cinnamon, Calico Graphics, Wolfeboro Inn, Blackstone Printing, Kingswood Press, O Bistro, and Bradley's. And in effect, we're giving back to the local businesses about a quarter of our revenue every year. And this year, we also developed a sort of unique arrangement with country booksellers that allows them to sell the books that some of our lecturers are offering. We do lectures every Tuesday night during the summer, and many of them are authors, and they're peddling books, but we're letting the country booksellers sell those books and getting all the profit from that because it was a better arrangement. We were losing money trying to sell it on our own, so it was a better deal for both of us. But that resulted in hundreds of book sales that they otherwise would not have had. We also host other nonprofit organizations in the museum for events like the Festival of Trees, a monthly meeting of veterans in cooperation with the American Legion, the 9/11 service, the Veterans Day service, Passport pop-up program, to name just a few examples. And we also worked with Brian on installing another charger on our parking lot. Although the museum does not pay property taxes as a nonprofit, we do drive a lot of volume of revenue in the business to local business and serve the community in a lot of ways. So bottom line, we acknowledge that the A12 filing was late. There's no question about that. But there were extenuating circumstances we hope you would take into consideration. And we believe that the penalty for the late filing is rather punitive, $50,000. And the legislature seems to agree with the changes they made to the legislation. So as a result, we're asking for the board's consideration for an exemption.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, I'd like to hear from John McDonald in the fact that whether the change in the legislation that's going to happen in April, we can bank on that to make an abatement tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Murray. I'm going to pass out what that change is. You guys will have a... Thanks, John. What happened a couple of years ago, I started getting calls from nonprofits, the kind of nonprofits like you'd see out on the side of the road, old schoolhouses, old churches, things like that that have been around for a couple hundred years. And they were required to produce some documents that a lot of them couldn't do. And there was no excuse for not having those documents. So I met with our town assessor, and I came up with a bill which I just handed out, which I'll just read to you. It's a new chapter, goes under RSA 72:23. Every charitable organization, society, except those religious and educational organizations and societies whose real estate is exempt under provisions of paragraphs 3 and 4, shall annually, before June 1st, file with the municipality in which the property is located upon a form prescribed and provided by the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, a statement of eligibility for tax exemption. And this is the new section. If any organization otherwise qualified to receive an exemption shall satisfy the selectmen they were prevented by accident, mistake, or misfortune from filing an application on it before June 1st, the officials may receive the application at a later date and grant an exception thereunder for the year. But no such application shall be received or exemption granted after the local tax rate has been approved for that year. You might say, what's accident, mistake, or misfortune? Now, the only definition I could find in the DRA laws was it means something outside a person's control or something which a reasonably prudent person would not be expected to guard against or provide for. So that pretty much covers a lot of different things. As far as you providing the exemption to the museum, I think that's something that you'd have to talk to your town attorney with, but I have read some other cases where that's been acceptable. This is clearly nothing intentional on part of the Wright Museum. It was a person got really sick, the family member was sick, and they're late getting it in. And if this law was in effect today, it would be covered. And I think that should also talk to your attorney. I believe there's some principle of law that something that's in the future that happens today, you can adopt that earlier than it actually is. But I think they're well deserving, and I think if this law was in effect, there wouldn't be a question that they'd get the abatement. And I don't know of any reason, again, I'm not an attorney in New Hampshire, I am in Massachusetts. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be granted the abatement. But again, you should probably talk to your town attorney or the municipal association.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions from anybody?
Jim, did you have any chance to get a hold of town attorney today?
Not on this matter, I did not.
No. So that, I think, is the issue that this board's going to have to decide on, whether we want to just go ahead and grant an abatement, not grant an abatement, and decide that tonight. My other thought is that we do have a meeting tomorrow, and we could see if we can get an opinion out of town attorney tomorrow and make the decision tomorrow night. So those are my options. Ryan?
I have a suggestion. I could make a motion that we abate the taxes based on accident, mistake, or misfortune, and we do it based on a positive ruling from our town attorney.
Okay, so
Are you making that as a motion, or can I ask a question?
is it a motion, or are you asking whether?
I'm asking, and I'll make that motion if we think that it's something that can be done.
Okay, so that you haven't made one yet?
Correct.
No.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, John. So thanks for doing this, by the way.
You're welcome.
I have a special kinship with the museum. There's no question that they provide a lot of value to the community. There's no doubt that they are a not-for-profit organization. Got it. Why is it not going to get implemented until 9 months after you wrote the legislation?
That's just the date that they assigned to it. I have no other reason to.
Is that like the way government always did it?
No, that some are 60 days, some are 120 days. I think it has something to do the reporting for next year.
Okay.
In 2025.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, can I just add one thing? I also spoke to Natch Grays with the Municipal Association. You may want to give him a call also, because that principle of law that I was talking about, he's the one that had mentioned it to me also.
The principle that says if it's been enacted, then you can behave as if it were enacted?
Right, vice versa, yeah.
And I do have a question for Casey, though.
Well, let me respond to that, and then I'll let you do that. What I have found when you ask the municipal association, they give you great advice, but when you ask them to put it in writing, they don't like it. So I think on this one, we probably are better off, and if we can get that in writing, that would be great. But we have another issue I think you're going to ask, so go ahead.
So I have a question for Casey, and maybe you can just yell at the end. Casey, there was a comment made in our briefing package that says, this affects the MS1. How? Thanks, John.
Yes.
I do not create the MS1. The assessor's office does, but that is my understanding that the numbers would need to change, so you wouldn't be able to sign off on it today.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what Todd, it came out of the assessing office, is what you
Todd
had.
and Linda would make that change.
Would you see any problem if we don't sign the MS1 tonight?
No. The assessor's office, it's technically due September 1st to DRA, but I think they filed an extension till October 1st and got a couple days extra because they knew you weren't meeting till the 2nd, so. And some of the things I'm approving tonight also go into the tax rate, so there's a few pieces that they still don't have.
And if we could get that, we could table the other MS1 till tomorrow night, and then do it one day extra. So we can, I think, can deal with that.
Yeah.
If we want to.
A question can I ask Jim a question?
Yes, you may.
So what's the degree of difficulty you get Nathan on the phone tomorrow?
It should not be a big deal. Should be able to coordinate this, get a decision, and then it's a matter of speaking with the assessor's office to get an updated MS1. I don't know how long it'll take them to turn it around. I'm hopeful that they would be able to turn it around tomorrow night, or for tomorrow night, excuse me.
So I don't mean to stand on my colleague's toes. I don't know whether this is a table or whether this is continue this conversation, motion to tomorrow when we have the information, and then we can either thumbs up or thumbs down this thing.
That's kind of where I was, because we're going to have to table.
A conditional vote, could get all whammy-whammy, no disrespect.
And I think there's a general let's do a consensus. I think if we could grant it, is there any board member that has an issue with granting it if we are within the law to do it?
I'd be good with it.
Yeah, I think we just need to make sure we're crossing all our Ts and dotting our Is, and we will try to get this onto the agenda for tomorrow and get the town attorney's opinion and make the change and grant it, make a motion tomorrow. We start at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We have a whole list of budgets to do, but we will put this up at the top. Board, is that satisfactory? Do you want to make, somebody want to?
So my question is, should I motion to continue it, which would give us the opportunity to just keep it going, we could vote on it, or do we table it?
I think we can continue it to tomorrow night specific.
Tomorrow night.
Yes, October 3rd.
October, whatever date it is. You have to look at our watch now to figure out the date. So let's continue this to tomorrow night so that we can have an opinion of council.
Got it.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. So I've got Paul made the motion, Brian the second, and I'll just get clarity. You meant tomorrow, October 3rd.
Of course I did.
Yes. So I just want to make sure we get that in the motion. Before I call for a vote, come on up.
Do you need me to attend tomorrow's meeting?
Board members, I think we're just doing a formality, making sure.
Okay.
Any board member feel they have to attend? You've got a consensus of the board. We're just going to walk through whatever we have to make it legal.
Okay.
Unless you want to bring coffee.
Thank you for your time.
Nice. And let's keep our fingers crossed that the attorney gives us a positive
That's
vote.
right. And if we don't have one, we'll get a hold of you as soon as we know we don't have that and figure out what we'll do from there.
So, Madam Chairperson, that's what I would suggest, is if we get some weird feedback from the attorney, I'll reach out to them and ask them to be present.
Okay.
Yes, that would be great. So I have a motion by Paul. I have a second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll put it on till tomorrow, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we will get to go.
Thanks.
All right. Now what do I do with my agenda?
Thanks, John.
The next item on the agenda is the MS1 Summary of Evaluation and Assessing from the Assessing Department, and we're going to need a motion to move that to October 3rd.
Yep. So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Brad, a second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Jim, I'm assuming that we can do the MS1V for Lower Beach Pond?
I would table that one as well, only because I want all of the documents to have the same date.
Okay, so we will move that one. Can we have a motion also to move that to October 3rd?
So moved.
That's Brian.
October 3rd, did you say?
Yes, I did say, did I say October 3rd?
I don't know.
Okay.
Second.
And I have a second by Brad. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All right, finally. Next item on the agenda is this fund balance to reduce taxes for 2024 Finance Director.
I'm going to read from my memo. The Department of Revenue has a Form MS 434 that I'll be discussing later this evening. And part of it is how much we want to use of the fund balance will be used to reduce taxes. In 2002, a warrant article number 16, and again in 2024, warrant article 23, the voters approved a surplus policy that states, each year the town shall reduce the surplus general fund undesignated fund balance carried over from the prior year to an amount no greater than 10% of the operating budget voted the current year by applying the excess as fund balance to reduce taxes, and further said amount to reduce taxes shall be affirmed, disclosed, and voted by the Board of Selectmen at a regular board meeting, which is why I'm here. The 2024 operating budget was $33,300,799. 10% of that would be $3.3,799,000. The unassigned fund balance for 23 was $3,006,943. Therefore, it is my recommendation that we do not use any of the unassigned fund balance to reduce taxes. And if my math went a little too quick, our fund balance was about $294,000 less than 10% of the operating budget.
The warrant article says no greater than. We have at other times gone with 8%, 9%. So it doesn't mean the question of whether we need 10% is the comfortability of you and Jim that we need that much of a surplus, because we can be less than that. What was happening was it was getting larger and larger, and the taxpayers wanted us to apply it to the tax rate. So I guess that's my question.
So $3 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you're running, this would be if there was any catastrophic event for the town. General fund, water fund, sewer fund, electric fund, we'd have to go petition the courts to use this money. $3 million to support a $33 million budget really is not a lot of money. So it is my recommendation not to use it at this point. I also did attach some history to my memo, and round numbers, in 2019 we had 4 million, 2020 we had 4.7, in 2021 we had 4.2, and it's my opinion that that's more my comfort level, is to be up around 4%, which will be about 8% of the recommended DRA approval, but it's your tax rate.
Just let me finish one more and then I'll give it to you. The unassigned fund balance, that's just on the general fund. Do we also have some unassigned fund balances in each of those enterprise funds that could be used?
Some of the enterprise funds do not have a fund balance.
Like the
sewer and
electric.
Oh no, electric does. You said did not, I believe you said. Electric has one that they could use also, yes. But the motion in the warrant article was operating budget, which is all inclusive, and that is the $33 million.
Yeah. You had a question, Paul?
Well, so just clarity. I think you're. I think you're saying that there could be a what happens, and so we want to make sure we have some dry powder. That makes sense, right? You're not suggesting that we, or maybe you are, that if we get to the point where we're about to transfer the budget over to our colleagues, that we use 3% or 2%, that some amount of that $3 million could be available for us, right?
Not to reduce the tax rate. This is your one and only chance.
Right.
As soon as I send in my MS 434 and the MS1 gets in, the tax rate gets billed on all these documents, you cannot use it to offset the tax rate. What you could do, if this board chose, is to use some of the fund balance as an expense. If you were going to buy a $500,000 widget, could use 300,000 out
Got
of
it.
fund balance to offset that widget.
Like an ambulance?
I didn't say that, I said a
Yeah, right.
widget.
So the change in restrict, I'm sorry. Go
ahead.
So could you just help me understand, because I don't understand it. What is the change in restricted fund balance? What is that?
Restricted would be like donations, stuff that's set aside just for specific purposes, inventory, that type of stuff.
So in 22 and 23, we had restricted, using your words, donations, gifts, whatever, that we had to point at a given set of projects.
Yeah, and we can't use that for anything but the purpose that it was given.
Okay,
Yep.
I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice piece of work.
Thank
Very
you.
nice piece of work. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else have any?
I would just add, because I think it is timely to the conversation, one of the items that I was going to discuss regarding the MS1 as it was presented to you, the increase in valuation to the community over the past year was $24.3 million, which, with everything being equal on the town tax rate, that is 6-cent impact on the tax rate. So I think that is important information for you to know. I do concur with Casey on this, and I use the matrix on page 2, where in 19, 20, 21, we were carrying approximately $4 million in an unassigned fund balance. And correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, but that is after we used funds for projects.
That's correct.
After.
After, yes.
After you use fund. Yep,
Yes,
got it.
the board did
That was
have
net.
a practice of using some things to offset some spending.
And before that, we used to use it to offset the tax rate. And after we ran into the little hiccup, we decided it's better to do it to the tax rate.
Right.
And I agree with that.
And the number's 2.7 in 18, that's 3 million today. Because we had.
It's 10% of whatever the operating budget
Well, no,
was at that
I'm
time,
saying-
so
I'm
it
saying by the
doesn't.
time value of money and the way inflation's been, in 2018, we had 2.7 million. That would easily be the value of 3 million today.
Well, we don't know what the percentage of the operating budget was. That's what dictated what that was.
So that could have been 10% or 2% of the operating budget in 18. This document is not pointing that out to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I need a motion. It's on the bottom of the sheet. Anybody want to give me that motion?
I'm going to move that the Board of Selectmen affirm that we will not be using any of the 2023 unassigned fund balance to reduce the 2024 taxes as recommended by the town manager and the finance director.
Okay, that's a motion by Paul. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got Dave, second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thanks, Casey.
Okay.
You're welcome. I'm not going anywhere yet.
You're not
Don't
done
leave yet. Okay, next item is, gotta turn the page. Recommend to revise estimated revenues for 2024.
So when you create a budget, you come up with estimated revenues, and at that point, you really don't know what's going to happen. However, right now, we're 8 months, almost 9, but when I did this, we're about 8.5 months through the year, so you kind of know where your revenues are going. So you have the opportunity of changing some, increasing them, decreasing based on the trends, and what you think is going to happen in the year. The town goes down to a lower level detail than the MS 434 does. And so I go through and review with the town manager. Some of the big ones, we increased motor vehicles by $100,000. We increased cable TV franchises, $8,000. A lot of the, thanks to the Public Works Director, we had a lot of increases in sale of scrap metal, cardboard, aluminum cans, down the bottom of page 1. $90,000 extra in solid waste user fees. So all of these fees, by adjusting the revenues, it's less taxes that we need to increase. The net effect came down to, almost $173,000, which saves 7 cents on the town tax rate, which is approximately $21 to the average single-family homeowner. Based on current revenues, I would like to ask you to approve the revised estimated revenues for 2024 in the amount of $19,837,981 as recommended by the Finance Director. But before you make that motion, do you have any questions? I'm sorry.
And that's the sum of the incremental 172 on top of what you estimated?
That's correct.
Okay,
you know, I just rattled off some increases. There were some decreases also.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
interest on investments is a good one. Because we are getting some of our interest is from the public safety building bond that only can be dedicated to either the debt or the public safety building, I decreased the interest on investments because the others would be restricted funds. So.
Move to approve the revised estimated revenues for 2024 in the amount of $19,837,981 as recommended by the Finance Director.
Do I have okay, I have a motion by Paul, a second by Brian. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Thank
Casey.
you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Dockside Dock Capital Reserve Fund expenditure, $25,201.83.
So I'll kick this one off. This particular item came to us as the need to dredge, which was actually tied in as an ad alternate to the 2022, I believe it was, commercial dock project. As that project mobilized, the permitting was approved, and a purchase order was submitted and approved under that warrant article funds to perform the dredging. As we moved through the project, there was a balance of funds left because of the retainage held, and now we are at a point where we have to pay the retainage for the completed project, and that puts the project over budget. As a result, we are requesting the Board of Selectmen authorize funds out of the existing Dockside Docks Capital Reserve Fund for the overages associated with dredging, which was tied in with the capital project, which was a warrant article in the amount of $700,000, I do believe. And Steve is here to talk about this in further detail. And I do believe you received a lot of documents electronically over the past couple days on the item.
Good evening, Steve Randall, Public Works. I will do my best to answer all the questions you have with this. This project predates me, so it has been a little bit of thumbing through a lot of pages and paper trails to come up to find that I need $25,201.83.
Paul.
Excuse me. So this project sounds like we created a receivable. We didn't pay anybody any money, right? Is that kind of correct? Nobody got paid. We're
No,
just
everybody got
25,000.
paid.
Everybody got paid.
Everybody got paid?
This is just retainage as the project is
So
closed out,
we
which
paid
is
the money, and
2%.
now, and how did we pay the money in an account and in a warrant article that had, because in the backup I read said had been closed? How did we do that? Where'd that money come from?
It came from a PO that was issued under that warrant article in 2022 for the dredging.
August 20.
But the dredging was not part of that.
Correct.
And so it put the project over.
Yeah.
One by the dredging.
Yeah.
And two by the retainage.
Yeah.
And I went through, and it was in 2022, and my issue is that here I am 2 years later being asked to take money out of a capital reserve account for something that was spent in 2022, and I believe we even closed out that account and gave some money back to the taxpayer. And this purchase order, I don't know where it was floating. I went back into my capital projects reports. Yep. I went back and looked at the statements that I get every month, and I do the items to see if there was any way I could have seen. What did I miss? That I kept on saying to myself, what did I miss? What I didn't see it. Whatever happened with this purchase order didn't show up anywheres. And
So, yeah,
that's concerns.
Maybe it was my jet lag, and thank you for clarifying, because the way I read Jim had asked some questions of Casey, and you provided some red commentary back. I was of the mind that this is just an outstanding receivable. So it wasn't an outstanding receivable. The collective we actually approved an expense through the approval process. And so I don't know how that worked. I need to, but anyways, we got to go find 20 grand. Okay.
Oh, Dave.
Says in the notes here that the balance in the account is $62,577 as of right now for that project 2 years ago?
No, that is in the capital reserve account.
That's in the capital reserve.
We have to take from the capital reserve.
Yeah.
I understand this happened
in betwixt.
As we had two different public works director. I'd feel a lot different if it came to me prior to the dredging taking place and saying, look, we're into this project, we really need to dredge. Are you willing to take money out of the capital reserve account? I mean, I think we're kind of caught here.
We are.
Without anything, but Jim, you talked about maybe a new computer program that we're going to get into that we would be able to see this.
So Steve, it's my understanding that the asset management software program will be able to help us out better with the tracking of capital projects. Because one of the problems we have with MuniSmart is it really doesn't track the projects from year to year very well. And that, for me, looking at these projects becomes very challenging because I have to pull up a 2022 report and then a 2023 report and then a 2024 report to understand it. But once he gets the asset management software of iWorks up and running, he's going to be able to have a much better handle on where the expenses go from inception to completion of the project and then the maintenance thereof after.
Because that's how we're doing it on a much smaller scale now with our everyday things. That is, I'm working on trying to build that onto this scale as well. So it will be, you pass a warrant article number 1 for $700,000 for docks. That goes in there. Everything that we do goes in there. And you can have a login and you can go in there and you can follow everything that goes with that. I traced the best that I could do. I'm pretty sure I have the same papers that you do.
Yeah.
I traced the dredging back to August of 22 when it was authorized. That's the best that I could find.
Madam Chairman.
I didn't, and the retainage comes due and.
Yep. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, with the iWorks program, that would, in the larger scale projects, that would just span over a period of years also.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't, as Jim said, you wouldn't have to go back, look at each year. Your program would be from inception to completion.
And there's a lot into that program, and we're this far into learning that and how we're processing that. But all the way through to, I'm starting it with the pump stations. So when we get Lander Street up and running And as I am building those files, and I will start to input all those numbers once we get going, and that'll be my test run on how that works through. But there's a record. You can go in and you can punch in. You know, I could go in. I could tell you how much we put, what we spent on your road. You know what I mean? At any given time.
Linda, is there any restriction in the CRF to take that 25,000 out?
No, we're the agents to expend.
Okay. So other than the heartburn,
Yes.
and we're going to get really smart in the future, I'm going to make a motion that we take $25,201.83 to cover the overage in the dredging and the extra cost of the stamped concrete out of the Capital Reserve Fund.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a discussion.
I do too.
One of the things that would, I think, help us, and when I went back to try to figure out and see if I had any documents, I think those quarterly project reports makes you put the information out to us, and we hear more about what is being, going in. And I was trying to find back to some of David Ford's, and I couldn't, but I think that would be a real plus. Brian?
Software is only as good as the information that's put in it.
100%.
Now, here's a question for you. Going forward, can you just use this software program to print out quarterly reports for us?
That's the goal, yes.
So that we will see it. You could actually do it monthly. It depends how much work it is to generate the reports.
So all of my stuff on the small scale is very easy. I can go in, boom, 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 and I can do it. So doing it on a larger scale project shouldn't matter. I'm saying that. It shouldn't matter.
There's a learning curve.
Oh, I mean, so the package that we bought has 5 modules to it of different, between facilities, fleet, highway, in their 3-month training per module. So we're into it, but we have a long way to learn.
So this is going to be, you're going to like this.
Well,
when
but
he gets these reports.
I want the numbers, but I also want the narrative.
100%.
Because the narrative, if you were saying, oh, we added dredge, we would have known. And that's what that narrative is very important.
I didn't know.
No, I know you didn't. I'm just looking at the report going forward.
All right, now a little levity. I will approve this with the rest of the board if you fix the 6 loose caps on the poles on the docks.
Brian, no.
Can't do that.
You can't do that.
You could get
I
5
agree
done,
with you
maybe.
that they're loose, and I noticed that the other day.
There's only 6 of them, and they need 6 screws in.
But Brian, this is not the motion to put that in. Okay. All those in favor? Say aye. And I'm going to vote no. Okay. That passed. Brian, do you want to ask Steve to do something? Can you, okay, we've taken care of that? All right.
Does that violate the 15-minute rule?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a baby incubator box request for the public safety building follow-up.
So I'll kick this conversation off. I do believe that there was a conversation that took place at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, and from that conversation, I firmly believe that the Board of Selectmen need to make a decision going forward whether or not they want to place this device into the public safety building. And the reason why I say you as the board have to really take this under consideration is it's my understanding that there could be donations coming forward for the installation of this box into the public safety building, and you guys are the ones who are going to have to approve acceptance of the funds for this device. To follow that up, you do have a memo from the police department in unison with the fire department with some reservations about the installation of this device into the public safety building. We are quickly approaching a go or no-go timeframe as far as the building is concerned, but I think the bigger item right now is whether or not you want to accept donations going forward, because there is active fundraising which is taking place, and whether or not we want this in the public safety building. Again, the chief and the deputy chief have some concerns about it, and I will answer questions that you may have, and I believe that the chief and the deputy fire chief are here as well to be able to speak to questions that you may have of them.
So I understand the safe haven law, and I understand that a baby can be surrendered at multiple locations in any towns, fire department, police department, hospitals, and whatnot. But like anything, I see no problem with redundancy, especially if it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. And there's always something to be said about anonymity. There are some people that in desperate times would want to stay anonymous for different reasons. If there's no implication for a tax for the citizens to have to pay or an increase, I don't see a problem with redundancy. I know that there are statements like, well, anybody can put anything into this box, who knows what's going to happen, so on and so on. I don't think we should look at a doomsday scenario with this, because anybody could put anything anywhere. You could open up a lobby of any building and you could do anything ridiculous. But let's not look at all the possible ridiculousness. Let's see if this is a redundant thing and let's hope that nobody ever has to use it. But they have been used throughout the country. And again, for me, it's just a financial thing. If it can be done for no cost to the taxpayers, I see no reason why not to do it. We accept benches, we accept trees, we accept pickleball courts, we accept bike trails for $350,000. I mean, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do it.
Any other board members have any comments? I do want to point out that the state of New Hampshire law goes up to 61 days. We're not talking about just a 7-day-old baby. We're talking about up to a 3-month-old. One of the concerns is that the incubator section would protrude into the corridor between the communication center and the common corridor. And what I don't know, does that greatly affect the width of that corridor and cause some issues?
I would say that corridor is tight as it is, but Deputy.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer to that. I asked the architect that same question at our weekly meeting a couple weeks ago, and he said there will have to be some adjustments that'll have to be made. That's vague. We have a meeting tomorrow morning. I could ask him for some specifics.
Okay, it's just a comment here,
Yeah.
so it's one thing if it takes up half, if it's a little section.
It's 18 inches out into the corridor. It's a significant size.
Okay. And that is not a commonly used, that's not one of the main corridors, or is it, of the building?
What do you mean? Is it?
Well, is it one where the fire and the police are going to be going back and
Yes.
forth quite often?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And I guess the other one that is brought out, it is a product and maintained by a private company which holds a patent. Am I understanding that the only one who can maintain that box is the Safe Haven Baby Box Company?
That's what I got out of it.
Huh?
That's what I read.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that correct? These are some of the things that are
Yeah,
here
what
for.
happens if it needs upgrades and everything else, which is bound to. There was something in here I read where the box has been upgraded many times, over 20 times in 8 years. That's what they found out. The other thing, like I said the last time, I'm not in favor because we're right across the street from the hospital. I don't think there's, my understanding also is from previous meetings is that there are none of these boxes in New England. The closest one is in
Lancaster,
Pennsylvania. So be triaged at the public safety building and taken across the street. I mean, that just seems too much redundancy for me, so.
Madam Chairman.
Sure.
So and by the way, I want to thank the chiefs for, I thought it was a very well thought through, just kind of putting it on the table factually. So I want to read something that they wrote because it kind of caused me to think. And this keys off Mr. Senecal's comment. Here's how this would work according to our public safety officials. That an infant is surrendered to the public safety building would be subject to an alarm which would cause the communications team to tone out the fire department, which would also cause personnel, including an ambulance service, to respond. Good so far? The on-duty police officer would also respond. Good so far? The infant would be triaged by medical rescue team, whether it be town-owned or Stewart's, and then would be transported across the street to the emergency department of Huggins Hospital, where a determination would be made by the medical professionals as to where the infant would go from there. And DCYF would be contacted as temporary guardian and would contact the police department. So I read that and I said, why the police department? Why the public safety building? We have a hospital, and the child, the individual, is going to go there urgently, because I would assume 61 days or less, if they're left in a box, they would have to be triaged pretty promptly. Back to the physical box. There will evidently be a camera and lighting focused on the box, but the content can't be used to identify the adult in the drop-off. If the person using the box is depositing something or something other than an infant of 61 days or younger, can the police identify the person for subsequent investigation? Complicated question. I don't minimize complicated questions when a human life is involved, and I don't minimize that when people want to make issues out of that. How does anyone know if the infant is 61 days or younger? What assurances are in place that we don't have a SIDS issue or even some other nasty stuff? So I look at this and I'm reminded that yes, we have these things happening, these incidences happening across the United States. I don't think it belongs in our public safety building. And that's kind of where I come out on it.
I have a question. If a parent came in and handed the baby to a member of the fire department, what would the fire department do? Would we bring the ambulance? Would we do everything that we would with the alarms on the box? Yes. So whether the baby's in the box or handed to person, what he just read would happen anyhow. Okay.
The protocol would be followed.
Yes, that's. I just wanted to make sure that people were clear that it would be the same protocol. So.
And you're probably right, Paul. The better place would be in a hospital wall by the emergency room or someplace. But that means taking the hospital wall, carving it out, making a hole in it, installing wiring and all other things that aren't there, and then inserting this. That costs a lot of money. That maybe the group that's raising money for this can get there, but with the building being built right now, the cost is fractional. Will it ever be used? No. Will there ever be any cost to the taxpayer? Probably not, because the chances of it being used are very, very slim. But it's like when we installed the EV chargers in town. We could have put them down on the parking lot down by the tennis courts, the Glendon Street lot. There was infrastructure that wasn't there that would have had to have been built. when we put them behind the train station, the whole idea of doing it there was because they were building out that parking lot right then and there, so the cost to install them was fractional. That's the only reason to put it in the public safety building. For me, it's cost. It's cost, and it's to, if we want to try this, do we make it happen? Like I said, I hope it never gets used, and the amount that are used throughout the country is small, but maybe Bobby has the numbers on that. How many drop-offs? Yeah.
So I think that if I could, I think that the answer to that is in the document provided by the two chiefs. The Safe Haven Baby Box are currently installed in 257 locations in 16 states. Approximately 135 of the 257 are in Indiana. According to Safe Haven Baby Box, 50 surrenders have occurred in their boxes, 3 of which went directly to personnel who were at the box site, so somebody physically took possession of the infant. So the data, and again, I thank you folks for digging that stuff up. I thought it was pretty dang good. I suppose I could make the argument that says, it's a private company, it's a startup, it's a patent, it's it's a maintenance fee, it's all that kind of stuff, and that gets in there. But I was compelled by the actual what happens when if a child is brought forward, and I just don't think it belongs in our public safety building. It's my personal opinion.
Linda?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, kind of agreeing with what I'm hearing here. When I went through, Chief Warren's letter to us and stuff, a lot of good things are brought up. I guess concerns that I have too are, the redesign 20 times in 8 years. What's going to happen when this one is outdated, needs to be replaced? You're going to get into all the major costs at that point. And, these fees aren't very minimal and stuff, but to have a statement, or we have to understand that there probably will be annual fees to the town. There is a $500 annual fee. We're going to have alarm services to be monitored, which are going to be $500. So there's $1,000 right there. Right now they're saying, this company will continue to, fund those, but what I see nowhere in here, there's a guarantee that they're going to be staying in the fundraising business. So these fees could very easily just end up plopped onto our laps at any time. So I'm of the mind that, this isn't the place for it, especially a small rural town like this. I can see this being much more effective in the cities and stuff in the area. There's probably a reason why there aren't any up here in the Northeast yet, just due to population and things like that. So I'd be leaning towards, be reluctant on this, installing this in the public safety building.
I really struggle with this one because I can understand if a mother doesn't feel like she can handle the baby, wanting to find a safe place to put the baby or to give the baby up. And, I can see why an anonymous place to do it would feel good. So I struggle because then I'm not sure that the public safety building is the right place for it. And I was kind of thinking of, maybe there's a group of nonprofits that can get together who can look and see if they can find a more suitable place than our public safety building. Thank you, Bobby, for bringing this up. I think it's important for us to have this discussion. I'm just having a hard time. I'm waffling back and forth because there's a part of me that would like to have it, and there's a part of me that sees some of the issues. So I'm kind of going to...
I agree with you. The only reason to have it at the public safety building is because there are trained paramedics right there. So you could put it at Fernal Station,
But you're not going to, because that, I mean, we are looking at finding another church or some place that's a possibility. We're not going to stick it out there. Which might be even easier for a mother to give it up in a church and not on a public safety building. And that's what I'm kind of thinking about.
My only concern is, yes, that the maintenance gets paid going forward. I've been in conversations with the people that are going to donate, and they said that they would pledge to take care of all the expenses going forward with it. Is that going to happen? No. Do we trust a lot of other nonprofits to do that? Oh, yes, we do. I could start listing them if we want. And sometimes they come through for us, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they stay with us for 25 years, sometimes they're gone in 2 years. So, I mean, I understand that there's a lot of questions with it, but I just look at the moral purpose, and I go with the moral purpose. And the moral purpose says that if there's no cost to the taxpayers, and it's a redundancy that someday gets used. They are in 16 states, so that's a third of the country already. So sometimes I like to be on the forefront of things, not lagging in the back.
Any other comments? What we really need to do is to make a decision on whether we are going to be willing to accept donations. They're out fundraising right now. I've seen there's a GoFundMe. So we have to decide whether we're going to accept the donations. So I guess the motion would be whether we are willing to put this safe haven baby box in the public safety building and accept donations.
I'll make a motion that we not accept the Safe Haven baby box to be put in the public safety building.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? One opposed, and I'll abstain. So 3-1-1. And I abstain because I'm waffling all over the place here. Okay? All right, next item. Abenaki Bike Trail permission for the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance.
So myself, Chuck Sumner, Chris Dow, and Dan Coons took a walk on the trails last week to get a better idea of where the proposed work for this year is scheduled. We walked the area. The proposed relocation makes a lot of sense. It removes the trails in excess of 150 feet from the spray fields, even though that particular line, lateral line, is disabled. You cannot see the spray fields from where the trail will be relocated to. Once the trail relocation is complete, the area which the trail currently resides will be allowed to return back to natural conditions. And we will, upon the contractor coming forward before they initiate the work, we will walk it one last time. It does remain clearly on the town property, and I do think that it is a good plan moving forward. Excuse me. The other thing that I would add is the state of Vermont, with the New England Mountain Bike Association, is building a best practices reference manual. That reference manual will talk about a significant amount of trail building and it will also discuss structures, which for me is an important item because the boardwalk, which crosses the stone wall, is an area of significant concern that I have after walking it. They are not going to reinstall that boardwalk this season. We're going to wait until this manual comes out because there's dissension whether or not there should be rails or not on that bridge. The building code actually indicates anything in excess of 30 inches in height does require such. And it requires actually, I believe, 54-inch high railings, which is a significant structure. So more to follow on that. However, I do think that it makes sense to move forward with this. Chuck is here this evening. He actually just attended the single track meeting this evening. If you have any other questions, he or I may be able to help you out.
I have a couple of things. that I'd like
Brian,
to-
I'll recognize you.
Okay. That I'd like to see when we do this. I would like where the trail is now to be flagged in red, where the trail is going to be flagged in green, and those flags left until construction is complete.
Okay, so
I would like to add to that we have pictures of those flagging before and after. So in other words, the flagging, and you walk with the builder, you flag where the trail's going to go. We get pictures of that. When the trail's done, we see the flagging and the trail's there.
Yeah.
And that's the verification.
And a
then
town
we-
employee walks it and sees where the green flags are and sees where the red flags are. Then I would also...
just so that I can get this written down, you want the green flags for what?
For the new trail and the red flags for the old trail. Stop for the old one, go for the new one.
And the red will be for the trail that is going back to natural environment.
Correct. And then I wanted to know, how do we know that that trail will not continue to be used? If it's there, people are still going to drive on it. They're going to ride their bikes on it still. I mean, unless you stand there and stop them.
Well, but you can put things in the way of the trail. You can put some brush up and put closed on it.
That's just... Then I would also like that someone from the town, a town employee, walks the new trails that are going to be built with the trail builder when they show up. And I think we need to have more communications with the trail builder going forward, because what happens is we say one thing, it goes to the single track, it goes to the trail builder, and by the time it's gone down the road that far, it might not be what we said. It's the old game that the kids play in kindergarten, telephone, where one person tells somebody something and somebody tells something, and by the time it gets 5 people down, it's a completely different story.
They're a millionaire.
Yeah. So
Paul.
those are the only things that I would like to see happen.
So it sounds like, and I haven't been party to this, so I'm going to act dumb here. It sounds like that there's no best practices out there on how to build trails. Is that true? Is there is like a manual that says if you want to build a trail, here's how you do it. You flag it. Is there any of that best practice stuff out there that we can get our fingers on?
Well, we had some of it when there was a master plan for trails in the town of Wolfeboro in 2021, and it had in the back of it how they would build some of the trails and the banking of it.
But I'm down to but I'm actually, Linda, I'm even more into the grit. Now, the New England Mountain Bike Association builds trails at Tilton and other places. And is there a best practice model that says when you decide to build a trail, here's how you flag it, here's how you identify it, here's how you retire old ones? If the answer to that is yes, my advice would be let's follow the best practices. If the answer to that is no, then I'm with my colleague here. Let's go buy some greens and red flags.
So
and
NIMBA,
chuck them all over the place.
NIMBA does exist. The National Mountain Bike Association is NIMBA, then NIMBA is the New England. NIMBA does have best practices, and there are consultants out there who used to work for NIMBA that could be hired, and we could use their expertise on trail building.
Yeah, my only point, and I'll just close off because I'm way out in front of my skis, is I don't want to reinvent what may already have been written down by somebody much smarter than me from a best practice point of view. And if it's out there, we ought to find it, and if it's not, then we'll let's buy red and yellow, green flags. That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would just add that Brian's comment, the third paragraph, the trail builder is scheduled to be on site in mid-October to perform the trail relocation as approved by the Board of Selectmen on August 14th, 2024. Pineo, Sumner, and Dow will perform a final walk of the trail relocation with the trail builder prior to the contractor beginning any work. And I've got noted green ribbon for the new trail, red ribbon for the old trail that will be discontinued, so that it is addressed in the memo.
And that we put something so that we block off that trail? If
Yes.
there's a way to do that. The other thing I'd like to know, I'm losing my voice, is the boardwalk that I saw and that they gave in the drawing had a little lip on either side. Is that what you're going to have put on? The last presentation that I got from the single track, it probably was all of maybe 2 or 3 inches high, and it looked like just a rail. I'll send you the picture from the presentation.
So you're talking, are you talking
Boardwalk.
about the one going across the stone wall?
No, I'm assuming that these trails are going to have the boardwalk, because that was what was shown on the presentation that Wolfeboro single track, and those they called them boardwalks. They were wider, and those boardwalks had a piece of wood, not more, thank you, more than a couple inches that would stop a bike from going off.
Yes, so there is any ground level boardwalk is supposed to have a bumper installed that is, I don't know the height, but it's probably 4 inches in height.
Yeah, bumper, that's
Yep.
what I was asking.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Great job.
So, like any input from me, first of all, Brian, the closing off the old trail, common practice is to put things like either boulders or large branches and so forth across there to make it difficult to get over onto the old trail and make it obvious that the new trail is the way to go.
If you talk to people like the Lakes Region Conservation Trust, though, when a boulder's put here, the people just go to the next space between the 2 trees and...
Well, in this case, there would be no incentive to do that, because the new trail would be well-built, it would be obvious, and it would be difficult to get onto the old trail, and over a short period of time, it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't be rideable, really.
Hopefully it works that way. That's the goal, because the whole idea is we just don't want people riding in unsafe situations.
Right. So
Which
if
is
you
the
make it
Springfield.
if you make it obvious that they should go this way, then and that's obviously the safe way to go, then people who want to stay safe will go the correct way.
Okay.
As far as best practices, yes, there are other best practices around. I don't know what else is available in New England. I mean, I've seen some, like in British Columbia, builds some crazy looking trails, and you would not feel safe with their standards for trail building. I was in Quebec this weekend biking, and they have like bridges that are 10 feet high and no railings at all. So.
Well, it's probably not what we want.
No, I don't think so.
That's not what you want. So there are other best practices, but it varies a lot. I think a New England best practice would be appropriate, and I don't know if there's others. The one that we're waiting for from Vermont is probably going to be our best bet. What we're talking about here is just relocating a couple of trails, something that makes sense. And which will also make it easier to add one more trail, which we'd like to do next year, so that the whole network is just a reasonable and sensible network for us.
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
So the bottom of your letter, Jim, to us is you want us to authorize you to sign the contract?
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the contract with Manny Pax's Trail Contracting LLC for the proposed 2024 Abenaki Bike Trail work.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Paul, second by Dave. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just want to know if we can amend Paul's motion to include,
You're not going to do the dock thing again.
no, just that we include that,
Brian, I think what you want to include would be, I'm going to go to the last page, which we have to sign, which was the motion that we made on September 26th, and get the green flags and the photos in that motion?
Yes.
Will that work for you?
Correct.
Okay, so we have this motion. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so if we go to the last page of the packet,
Yep.
it says, and this is, we have to put it in writing and we have to sign it. So this was a draft of that document. And the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen agreed on September 26, 2024 to allow Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance to build a boardwalk to move the trail away from the spray field. They must provide a map, green, I would like to add, flagging, and pictures of the flagging before the trail is built and after the trail is built.
You want that in the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move that.
so.
Okay.
The only question I have is,
I'll second. Need a second for
okay, I'll
discussion.
second for discussion. And then the map. Are you happy with the mapping that you have right now, Linda, for this whole project?
I'm
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay. No, but I feel that Jim's been out there. So I feel comfortable that, you know, and I'm hoping maybe we could, and didn't you have coordinates on where the trail's going to go?
So we will. I mean, that's
Okay.
easy to put together. I don't see any issue with this whatsoever. Pictures, flagging. One thing I would add about the flagging, just to be clear, any flagging that I put out, I will initial. And number two, we've got a problem with flagging out at that location because there's flagging everywhere.
Correct.
So I need a time frame from this Board of Selectmen, if you want me to flag it after the trail's done, time frame for removal.
I would say as soon as you've gone back out and inspected, or whoever goes out and inspects that the trail is in the position, takes the picture and says, I verify the trail is in the position that, and location that was agreed upon, then they all can come out. I don't think.
Should we remove, after these trails are done, should we remove all the flags that are out there? Because there are 5-year-old pink ones, 4-year-old yellow ones, 6-year-old blue ones. And it creates a mess because then when you flag something, I mean, it just...
I got to agree with Brian and
Who knows what's
and
what?
Jim. There are a lot of flags out there, so at some point...
Is it something we could ask?
We could, if you're driving around and there's just some flagging that has no meaning, feel free to take them down. Is the board okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something we could ask Wolfeboro Single Track to remove on there if they put them up originally over the course of years?
Some of them were put up by Andrew Lester 6 years ago or 5 years ago when he was developing his master plan.
I do believe some of them are also the green flow trail that they proposed this year that was not approved. So that I would suggest they want to come back with that in the future. I've alluded to some hesitation about that, but until a definitive answer is reached, I think those particular flags should probably stay.
Okay.
So what we're saying, that any flagging that we know is a possible future trail for Single Track Alliance, those flags, but there also seems to be flags just kind of floating off in nowheres.
Yeah. Some of them we weren't sure who owned them. I mean, I don't know if it's associated with the ski association or with surveying, spray field work, we don't know.
We
So
no
I'm not,
idea.
I'm not sure we should take those down. We can certainly take
Well,
down. after
okay,
the
we'll
work is
leave them
done.
out there, and at some point, we'll try to decide what they are. I
For
mean,
this particular project, we can, once everything is complete, we can take down the red flags and the green flags that
Absolutely.
were associated with this project. And
Yes.
and yes, we
Yes.
can do that.
Yep.
Once we're
And
done.
so then, in your motion, do you need to remove map? If it's not provided to you, why it can't be there?
Well, there's a map provided to us right here.
Is that sufficient?
Well, I would like it, like it a little closer. I would like it eventually on the map of all trails.
I would suggest that we walk the trail with the trail builder like we agreed, and once everybody is comfortable with that particular route and it has been flagged with green flags, I would suggest that we then map that. We have the technology with GPSs to map it and provide a final map at that point. We know the general area and we know that roughly where it's going, and there's nothing bad about where they're going or any complications.
The strange thing is, everybody always says that it's easy to map and we have the technology, but nobody's ever produced a map that shows us exactly what we need, and nothing that has ever satisfied our chair.
Okay, so I'm going to leave the map. We have maps, they're right here. So I'm comfortable leaving the word map. I like what Chuck's saying. If we can get coordinates and put it somewhere after it's done, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we need a map for us too, for the users of the trails and signage as well. So yeah, there's a need on both parties to do this.
Okay. That is the motion. Brad?
Just a thought, we're talking about the flagging and stuff. I just come to think that we just approved for a cross-country running race to be up there. I think it was Brewster Academy. Do we know if they go out there, they might put some flagging up for the route that they want the runners to follow? So
No. So
They don't, okay.
the simple answer is they put down spray paint on the ground and they put cones out.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
In Sewell Woods, when they do it in Sewell Woods, they'll put little flags like the ones that landscapers use for marking sprinkler heads and things. They just stick a little metal thing in the ground with a little flag on it like that. Then they pick them all up when they leave.
Well, we were out there the day of the race and they were spray painted and cones.
So what I would suggest is that this is a good test case. It's a pretty simple project, and let's just test the process here. I think what Jim has outlined makes sense. Yes, we need a map. We don't have an accurate one yet, but we'll get one. Let's move forward with this, and let's see if we can do it right this time, and then follow that process for any future work.
Right. Paul, did you make that motion?
I withdrew it.
Will you make it again?
No.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
I honestly, I just fell off the wagon here.
Okay, well, pick yourself up.
thank
Okay,
Back in now.
okay, it's my understanding, it is to allow Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance to build the boardwalk, to move the trails away from the spray field. They must provide a map and green flagging and pictures before and after where the trail will be.
So they're building a boardwalk for one of the trails they're moving.
The two of them, I think. Are you moving one
I
trail?
believe there are two, but
That's
I'm not.
Tomahawk and Tommy Boy, I think, are both being moved over, and I think, am I correct? Yeah, and they're two,
They're both going to have boardwalks
that's my understanding, yes.
and low boardwalks that
It's
don't
low. It's like
require
12 inches
railings.
off the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. yeah. Okay. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
And for discussion, how long are the boardwalks, just out of curiosity? Jim, how long are they?
I don't know. I don't know. 'Cause I mean, I walked it, but
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where they're going.
To
If
be
you-
determined. It's we don't know until we get there and actually get in there and find out where the beginning and end of the boardwalk is required.
I do not believe that it is crossing any wet area. I think it's just something that wants to be installed as a adventure type of thing. I don't think there's an actual purpose for traversing water.
No, it just makes the trail easier to follow. Otherwise, you're going over really rough ravines and rocks and such. It's an easy way to build that piece of the trail.
Okay. So then we're going to have to change some of our previous agreements that said no structures.
We're just giving them permission right here.
For this one.
Well,
This
just
is
because
right
we're now,
here.
if we're going to be allowing structures, we need to change some of our previous
On the
agreements.
26th, you approved the boardwalk.
Yeah, it's a boardwalk. We're approving,
Now going forward, from now on, we allow all structures.
no, we are doing this specific to this trail, a boardwalk.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
As
We're not
opposed
saying
to a
from now
bridge.
on, they can put boardwalks anywhere they want. We've got a motion specific to a trail.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody understand what we're agreeing? Any more comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Jim, you'll get this, or I'll talk to Amy tomorrow, get this cleaned up, and then it'll be put in our packets for us to sign, because that's what you need, a written approval from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, you're good to go.
All right. All right. The next item on the agenda I put on, and I was talking to somebody, and they were saying, God, people just don't understand all the issues around the different options that are coming up on Route 28, which sent me back to the town's Route 28 steering committee, and we made this matrix that talked about parking, stacking lanes, the corner store and Three Sisters. And I was thinking that this board should probably try to take the options that New Hampshire DOT is going to be presenting to us and go through the same kind of a grid. And so when we decide, and if we decide to do warrant articles, we will have something in writing for people to better understand what we're talking about. Because we've spent years talking about it. In 2018, we did this report. We gave it off to New Hampshire DOT. COVID came, and a lot of people just have lost any understanding. The other piece that I put in was I would also like to go and look at the segments and decide whether in some places we want to have grass and then the sidewalk, and other places we may not need grass, we may just want the sidewalk. And so that's my idea. I don't know whether you want a couple of us to, in a couple of groups, two at a time, go through it, whether you want to do a work session and work through the grid. My preference would be a work session, because then we're all interacting and the public can hear it.
Linda?
Yep, Paul.
So thanks for doing this. And you can see the vintage of this is 6 years back.
Yep.
I would advise that our beloved municipal electric department and our highway leadership teams get re-engaged, because the one, when I read this in the packet, which jumped off the page, only one utility pole will need to be relocated. And I went, that's a bunch of bull stuff. So there may be a little, there may have been some optimism in this, and I think Steve needs to weigh in on some of the items here. So it'd be, I agree with you on having a workshop. I think the first thing I would recommend we do is ask Jim if he wouldn't mind to have his team just clean this up a little bit, because I like the one that says no utility pole relocation. That one was.
But this doesn't have to do with the intersections.
I know.
It has to do with how many lanes of traffic.
I know.
So some of
I want to make sure
this.
we're all clear about what we're gonna ultimately say to the voters. And if we pop this thing out, people would say, well, you're not going to relocate poles. You go, well, you forgot to tell you that's the thoroughfare going down the road.
Well, under the utility, we need to have 2 lanes of traffic, 3 lanes of traffic. That we need to change some of the categories that would.
I thought this is good.
Just a point here. This matrix we have here in front of us is strictly just for Pickering Corner.
Pickering Corner.
But I
It's
would.
not the whole road. If you want to develop the whole road, I agree, yeah.
No, I just gave this as an example
Gotcha.
of what we could do, and the kind, which gives answers to a bunch of questions people. So I think we do Pickering Corner, I think we do the Carter, and we do McManus Road.
Yeah.
I was kind of interested to see that it said the unmodified intersection, increased stacking lanes and striping. So is that the enhanced striping option?
These have no relationship to what
What's, on the
they
table
have
today.
given us to the table. This was what we were looking at the
This is in
time.
2018.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I
so
see that.
all those, this will be changed because we're not looking at all of them. This has to be changed. So it'll be the enhanced striping. What's here is not going to apply to the option that we're looking at today, but it was just give you a model. The other issue is, when do you want to look at, since we have so few meetings, when do we want to look at trying to schedule this in? Because I think we have to do it sooner than later, because in November we're going to start working on yeah. So, with that being said, let me see where we are here. The week.
We doing anything the 23rd?
I know I'm not around that on the
That's a
23rd.
week. The 23rd. What, do we want to stick at the,
That would be Lucky Brad.
maybe he wants to be here. As I recall,
What, dinner?
I have to get to the next, what did I do? There is, well, we're looking at the dates when we're going to do different things. We could take, let's say, you're not going to be here the 22nd or the 24th?
I'm going to come up for those two meetings. I'm out of town that whole week, but I'm going to come up those two nights.
Oh, okay, so we could do a, let's say on the 24th, we could do a work session after those three. Or we pick another night. Well, maybe what's the week of the 17th, 18th? 17th, 18th. Okay. That's an interesting week. That's not going to work because on the 15th is short-term rentals, 16th the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and then we have a budget hearing. All right. So we have Public Works, Water and Sewer and a revisit list on Tuesday, the 22nd. Do you want to try to do it after that meeting?
Would it be better for Brad if we do it before?
I just looked at the week of the...
No, I mean before the meeting, because Brad's going to be coming up from out of
Oh,
town,
I hear what you're saying.
and he won't have to drive back as late. I'm asking Brad what's best for him.
Well, it doesn't matter. Driving night doesn't bother me, so probably later is better for me.
Okay.
It's harder to get away in the afternoon from what I got going, where I'll be and stuff.
So what day,
I'm looking at the 22nd, that we would do a work session after we did Public Works, Water and Sewer, and then I would shift the revisit list until the 28th. Does that work for you, Jim? Is that too late to shift the revisit? That's a date we have already set. And it was follow-ups and revisit as needed. I was just going to pull the revisit out of that October 26th. I would also like to move out of tomorrow's meeting general government and add it to the 24th, since we just got our budget books, and that means we would be moving town manager, executive, legal expense, person administration, and miscellaneous expenses. All the rest of them we do, just kind of cut down the number of budgets we've got to try to get through before we get here tomorrow.
So you want to move general government from the 3rd to the 24th?
Yep. If people agree, this is just my suggestion.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. And then I'm going to take and put the work session on October 22nd, and I'm going to move the revisit list to the 28th, where there is, if a revisit if needed, I'm going to make it happen that it will be needed. That work for everybody? Okay. Yep, that is. All righty. Sidewalk.
Well, first,
Yep,
who would you like here for staff?
for the work session,
Yep.
I think we need Barry and Steve Randall. Yeah. I hope you weren't going to be on vacation.
No, I will be here, but I do have a question in preparing for that. What is it specific that you will be looking for? Because I heard a bunch of different stuff, and I want to make sure that I understand. Is it basically you would like feedback or breakdown from us on their 3 options, and then breaking it down throughout the corridor? Is that what I'm understanding?
Why don't I get this matrix and put some other things on it and come and talk to you?
Sure.
I think it'd be easier if you saw it.
100%. What I was
Yeah.
looking for was how much of that are you asking from us? How much, or are we going to decide that evening? Or I want to make sure that I come prepared with what it is that you're looking for.
Right. I think a bunch of it we may decide that evening, but I want you to have a good idea how we're going and what we're looking at.
That would be
So
great.
you
Just-
have that
that would be
information, and I'll do the same with Barry.
And I think I would like to just throw out there that obviously that plan that they're doing is still very early on. So now would definitely be the time to either sidewalks right next to the road or push them out, or green space, not green space. Now is certainly the time to do that. So.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping we could get going on this. So I'll try to make a grid, and then I'll sit down with you.
When
And
you look at this document, this, again, is 2018. This was in the time where there was conversations about relocating the Richardson House. So you see, that kind of stuff in here. But I think what Linda's pointing out, which is great, it's almost a 2-page plan, not a 1-page plan. This is what you could potentially get for Pickering Corner. Here's your options. And then this is what it might look like from the way in which traffic moves through the, this is the way it might look like when traffic starts moving through the thing. It's really like big animal pictures here for people, which I think will be very helpful when it gets time to decide which way we go.
And we may just take the road and say, we want this to this point, at this point, we want that, and that, because it is in the designing, and that we then, as a board, if we agree that, then when people ask us questions, we'd have answers.
Yeah. What about the monument?
Yeah. So I will, you're on vacation next week, right?
I am.
Okay,
But
I will.
And I always answer the emails. So if you have something, you can always email it, and I can look at it.
I'll email it. I don't think I'll get it off tomorrow or the next day, so.
No, but even next week.
Okay, sounds good. All right, sidewalk ordinance update. Jim and I met, and we took the minutes, and we think we have a general understanding of how we were going to change this. Jim, do you want to speak to any of it, or?
No, I just went through, it's the version that you discussed before, went through, did the strike-throughs as appropriate, modified language as appropriate, renumbered. So I think that this captures the conversation which took place at the public hearings regarding the document for your consideration.
And so is there any other changes to this document? Okay, Brian?
Yep. So let's go with 140-15. It says flags shall be no lower than 7 feet. But if you look at ADA, ADA says that freestanding objects mounted on walls, buildings, or on posts or pylons may overhang 12 inches into the walk area for anything that is 27 to 80 inches high above the ground or finished floor. If they protrude more than that, they have to keep your clear width opening. So that would mean that awnings that come down that are below 80 inches can also be an issue. If you walk through downtown, all of our flags are below 7 feet. So are we going to include this in it, or are we going to take it out and just not worry about it?
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
So, Brian, are you going to propose language, or are you going to ask somebody else to propose language?
I'm just starting and just warming up and going to talk about
So
things.
on this one, you're not proposing any language? You
Not
get
yet.
to that? Okay, good.
So another one is when you get down to 140-16 and you look at the second paragraph, it says, all approved permits shall expire annually. Well, we don't have any.
That's all.
That's crossed out.
That's crossed out.
Not mine. Mine's underlined.
No, it's
Mine's
crossed
got
out.
things running right through it.
Mine's right here is underlined.
Yeah, mine is too, but, so you and I got the bum copy.
Any
mine is
object,
underlined.
okay, you're down. Any object on the second, okay, to utilize town property directly in front of the business for any object from April 1 to December 15. All approved permits shall expire
We don't have
annually.
permits.
So we just have to take that wording out.
Okay.
That needs to come out. That's simple. Okay, got it. Good.
And then
Good catch.
Under 140-17 objects, it says table, chairs, clothing racks, and other outside objects are allowed directly in front of owner's business as long as the objects do not infringe the town's minimum standards of 50 inches. However, if you go down to A-frame signs, all it says is that A-frame signs only have to allow ADA access. So which one are we going to do? 50 inches
Let's
or
go,
ADA?
let's just put that, cannot obstruct or traffic. Okay, signs cannot obstruct pedestrians and must keep 50 inches. We can be consistent, that's no big
So
deal.
we can put in A-frames, change it to 50 inches.
Yeah, right? That's what's missing out of there.
Okay.
That's-
Do we want to include, say, tables, chairs, clothing racks, comma, A-frames and other objects? Because A-frames are contentious, and then that way A-frames would be listed in 2 locations in the ordinance.
If you want to, the A-frame that is listed here and how it's listed is what's in the zoning ordinance. I just plucked it right out. So this is parallel to the zoning ordinance. If you want to put it up above, we can put it up above.
Yeah, I would put it right after racks, comma, A-frame signs. And then that way, it's
Okay,
listed in our
all right.
sidewalk ordinance, and it's listed in the separate A-frame.
I would just suggest A-frame signs as outlined in 140-18A.
That's
Okay,
what, yeah.
140, okay?
Yep.
18.
And those are going to be 50 inches, not ADA.
That's right, that's what we just talked about, yes.
Okay, so then we got to go back to the other one and don't know what to do. And Jim and I had this conversation about the awnings and everything, because ADA compliance says that anything that is lower than 80 inches, now this is very difficult to understand. When I say it to anybody, nobody gets it. Anything that is lower than 80 inches and higher than 27 inches can't protrude into the sidewalk more than 12 inches, or that makes it so that it is not ADA compliant. And it's nothing about how wide the sidewalk is.
I
The
got you,
sidewalk- the
it's very,
sidewalk could be 4 miles wide.
right, it's so somebody would run into things at those
It's
two
because,
heights.
when somebody
I got it.
has a seeing stick and
Got it.
they're walking, they can see things that are on the ground below 27 inches with the stick, but when they're walking, if there's something that's jutting out in front of their head, they will rock right into it with their head. So this is something that is going to have to be incorporated in our sidewalk ordinance some way, somehow, same time. we can leave it out now and discuss it later if we want to.
Put it in now.
Or we can put it in now.
Yeah, I think if we're
Get it
going to do
all in.
it, this is, I mean, this is just a draft of what we will eventually notice a public hearing for. So if it,
I'd put it in now.
The only problem with putting it in now is then we're going to have to decide, and I've been told that we can't grandfather things for ADA. And we have lots of window boxes, air conditioning units, signs, awnings, and a lot of things in our downtown corridor that do stick out more than 12 inches off building faces. So,
I think the awnings is one that's going to cause a problem.
yeah, there's going to be several.
And that a lot of people use those awnings.
And I think Paul at one time said that we've never had problems with ADA compliance in town before, but we had a whole thing where we had a huge issue with ADA compliance.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, 14 years ago. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, one of the things we've put in our CIP for years after that,
Right.
that we stay ADA compliant.
It was
So
14 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it definitely is.
I suppose, I'm not trying to be argumentative or pejorative, I suppose if you said no more window boxes, I suppose you could ask the voter to get their head around that.
I think more that I'm concerned about is the
Open into an awning.
awning.
Yeah.
Awning, the flags they can, do another way, but it's the awnings, and a lot of people like to sit under those awnings.
My advice on this is, whatever you think needs to get in here, do it now, because trying to do it later is, you just
Well, we've got to make that
do it.
decision.
do it.
Yes, Dave?
I think you have a bit of a conflict. 140-15, no lower than 7 feet, vertical feet, as outlined within the building code.
Yep.
And then Brian's saying that that's no good.
It's no good.
No, we need to do if we're going to do anything, it's the ADA code that's going
Got
to.
it highlighted and underlined in
Yes.
140-15.
You're right.
So
Yep.
you've got a definite conflict there.
Yeah, Brian's point is that
You may want to check
doesn't apply.
with Jason or somebody for the right
Right.
wording.
So this is based on ADA. So ADA says that it's 80 inches. Our flags say 84. So we're saying that our flags shouldn't go below 84 inches. They should be 84 from the ground. ADA says you only have to do 80. So building code is less restrictive than ADA.
Well, but it's in conflict.
Yes, it is. But that's not our issue. It's because the International Building Code gives you one standard, and then ADA gives you another standard.
Well, and I think I'd like to deal with ADA, because I think ADA was part of the motivation of
You want to
this.
make sure you.
So I would just say,
Restrictive.
I would just say that the ADA topic has just come up about a week ago. I believe Brian came to me about the ADA issue. The building code, 7 feet, has been in this since we did the rewrite. So if we're going to go the most restrictive, which is the common sense way to go, we just take out the building code reference and we put in the ADA reference and call it a day.
Call it a day.
But you want to do that. Because whichever one is more restrictive is going to take precedent.
It would be the ADA one, though, Dave, right? Because ADA is more restrictive than the building code.
Right, because the building code's 84 and
80.
80, and it needs to be 84. So why don't we shoot lower than 84 inches?
I think it's the other way around, isn't it? We're saying 84 by the building code, and ADA is 80 inches.
Correct.
That's what I thought.
So that's less restrictive.
That's what I thought when I first said.
Building code is more restrictive because it's holding it up higher.
Yeah, the building code, it's very strange. The building code is requiring a flag to be higher, but ADA is requiring anything that's lower than that not intrude. It's two different codes. It's
Oh, yeah, no,
completely
I get
different
that.
things.
I'm talking about just the height part of it. The building code is more restrictive.
So we leave the building code in. All right?
This is very confusing.
The issue,
Jim and I were
but-
talking, and it was hard to wrap your head around.
All right, so in terms of flags heights, we're talking flags.
Just flags.
All right, and anything that hangs down. Then the other issue are things that protrude out.
Yeah.
So it seems like we would have to put another, number in here to deal with that, because that's something, you've got different measurements.
Yeah, because you got awnings, I mean, most window boxes don't come out more than 12 inches, so you're okay with those, but it would be anything that's bolted, I mean, if there's a window, and I don't know if there is, if there was a window air conditioner that was coming out at head level, that could be an issue.
Which there are.
Yeah.
There are window air conditioners in several buildings down there.
So what we need to go back is put in another section that deals with the obstacles coming off from the building more than 12 inches, right? All right. And so we will do that, and then we'll clean this up, because we have to take a few things out. We've got to change that to ADA. We've moved A-frame signs up to 140/70A, and we're moving down in 140/18D, 50 inches. All right? Do I have everything on that? And there was nothing anywhere else? All right.
Clean it up and take it to public hearing?
We'll bring another draft back, because we should take another look when we go to public hearing. We better not make any more changes this time. I'm done.
If I could,
Once we
Linda,
get there, we should.
Yeah, no, this is kind of low.
Done.
If I could. So I wasn't here when a member of the public came and said, so this is about tables and chairs.
Everything we got on the public hearing that we talked about as a board, changes have been made in here.
No, if I just could. So it just struck me, and I asked Jim this either yesterday or today. So this is a general sidewalk ordinance. If anything, there's a sidewalk in our town. But are we comfortable that we have a butters that we probably should make an extra special effort to notice, or is that outside of what we should do?
It's outside. I mean, we've had 2 public hearings already on it.
Sorry, Dave.
Public hearings, that's what you have them for.
I was just, but when I heard the table and chair thing, that took me right to Railroad Avenue, and it took me to Central Avenue. And I just want to make sure that the people who are there, maybe I just go around and just pass the word around. Okay, that's good. Nothing else on the topic.
And there was a question one time that Jim had about the pretzel company and their small tables and chairs. There's 50 inches there.
Yep.
That's plenty.
Yep, and the wine person was on the ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
So, and the Seven Sons, we have a easement with.
Yeah.
Which dictates that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know what other ones.
I don't know.
Okay?
Good.
The next item on the agenda is a cable contract grease line. And I guess
So,
somebody.
the Cable Committee met after the 2 public hearings, had a discussion. There were really 2 questions that came up as a result of the 2 public hearings, which were held. One of those items was resolved. The other item is regarding density for the minimum number of dwelling units per aerial mile, which is 15. Mr. Bradley explained the economics behind that, and that is clearly defined in Article 3 on page 12 of the contract. I do feel that we are in a position where we should sign the contract and move forward. I would also point out that one of the conversations that took place early on, I believe when we reconvened as the Cable Committee, there was actually a lot of attendance from the public, and the public thought that the cable contract referred to internet services. Internet services is an entirely different beast compared to our cable franchise agreement. And the question is, should we either commission a committee to reevaluate or look at options that we may have available to us for internet access. Do we simply reconstitute the existing committee, or does this board draft a letter to some of the providers and see what we get for a response, if there's any interest in them wanting to come forward, at which point, if there is, maybe then we convene a committee to have a conversation. But point one is we need to probably, I'm recommending you authorize me to sign the contract and move forward. And number two is whether or not we want to do anything about internet access for the future.
Board members, does anybody want to make this motion that is down at the bottom of the first page?
Can I speak to it first?
Sure.
So I have a little legacy with these folks. First of all, I want to say that Breeze Line, as much as they've had all their opportunities to not perform, they stood up during COVID, and I thank them for that. Breeze Line, the company, like most small cable carriers, has a huge financial challenge in front of them. I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination their profitability, but they have huge financial challenges. Breeze Line had an opportunity over the past few years to increase their capital spending, get us into new technologies, DOCSIS, all that kind of stuff. And as much as we probed Breeze Line, we didn't get those answers. So I think they're holding pat on their capital for our town, which is what I would characterize unfairly maintenance capital as opposed to investment capital. I think, we spoke about this briefly a few years ago. When I left the board, I said with our communications companies, we should get everybody connected, and that's what Breeze Line did. But part two is introduce competition. And even though we haven't actively prosecuted that notion, there are alternatives that are coming forward. So my advice is sign the contract for a minimal term. There is good reason to do that. That benefits the town. Second, I would avoid having a cable committee reconstituted. I would recommend that maybe we have a chat about either having the delegation reach out to the carriers, because they're all certificated in this state, or Jim, we can do it like we did it before. We just send a note out to the CEOs of the company and say, come on in. And Jim knows the names of the people, and I'd be glad to help him with that. So I'll make a motion, unless anybody objects, I'll make a motion that we sign the contract with Breeze Line.
And this is a 10-year contract?
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public hears that.
Hang on.
It's a
Motion
10-year.
to approve the contract with Breeze Line, entering into a 10-year term, which will become effective 60 days from the execution of said agreement, and authorize the town manager to sign all documents related to the execution of the contract with Breeze Line.
I have a motion by Paul. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion?
Well, just one clarification. Breeze Line is the 8th largest cable TV provider in the U.S., and they have 707,000 subscribers. So it's
small.
It's smaller, but it's still
small.
It's still 8th is pretty good size.
Small, very small. The only discussion I would have is just so that people understand out there. The Breeze Line contract with the town of Wolfeboro has never been an exclusive contract. It's always been non-exclusive. Anyone could come to this town and reach out to Jim or you or me and just say, hey, I want to come in and hang wires. You could do that. And any wireless carrier can come into this town, and this board was kind enough to change our wireless ordinances with Matt Sullivan's help. Any wireless carrier can come in, and now following FCC guidelines, they can just pull a building permit and put radios up on our McManus facilities. So the town is open for people to come in. I just want to make sure the public understands that. The question is how we go forward with that. But the motion's on the table to sign a 10-year agreement, and it's been seconded. Thank you, Linda.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
And I would just like to thank the Cable Franchise Committee for their work. Very helpful. Thank you.
So the unanswered question, though, Jim, and for the rest of us, and maybe it's late, is now what? Do you want to send letters to the carriers, or do we want to have the committee? My advice is send letters to the carriers, either. And by the way, weren't you all here with the governor getting a sign? Get letter either through the delegation or just directly contact them. My advice is directly contact them. Jim and I, if you want, we can talk about that.
Any other discussion from anybody? Okay. Other business, I have the first one. You will see on the table before you is an agreement to convey of real estate and conservation easement. Dave, Brad, and I have been asked to sign it. I want you to have it tonight. I'm going to put it on the agenda for tomorrow night for you to take a vote. This should be a board's vote to authorize to do that. So that's why you have that on the table tonight. Is there any other business?
Mm-mm.
Hearing none. Town managers report.
Okay, so kind of covered it. We had a walkthrough of the bike trails. Positive all in all. Feel good about where we're going there. Tonight you've received your budget books. Tomorrow I'll give an overview of the budget, where we're at. Documents not in your binder yet, but there is a lot of summary information in there in the front, and we will give you and the community a presentation on that tomorrow as we open up. Tomorrow as well, it will be placed on the webpage. So Board of Selectmen got budget books today. They'll be going on the webpage tomorrow. Had a fairly productive meeting with New Hampshire DES regarding our seasonal water lines. If you recall, back in April, we had a public hearing regarding the seasonal water lines. Myself, Steve Randall, and Chris Maines met with Mr. Unger from New Hampshire DES, talked about some innovative ways to potentially keep these seasonal water lines. One of the really interesting parts of the conversation is right now doing away with the seasonal water lines is a recommendation. It is not a requirement. However, a recommendation is something that we have to act on. And if we don't show progress in acting on that recommendation, then they come in and say it's a requirement. Very challenging, because you want to sit there and say to the individual, we're not going to do anything, which isn't the right thing to do. So Steve is working out a plan for some options that we're going to present to New Hampshire DES, and we plan on working on holding a couple, 2 or 3 neighborhood meetings going forward that may outline a path forward for a couple of these areas. We think we have a couple options that, if the state approves them, we'll be in good position to move forward and keep some of these lines active. And lastly, I just want to report out, I'm sure a lot of people have already heard it, we do have a mold problem at the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. in some of our locker rooms. The mold issue has been evaluated, and a remediation plan has been put in play. I think remediation will begin on Monday for the mold issue. More work is being done to try to pinpoint what the actual cause is to it. There's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of finger pointing, but right now there's no definitive answer. Again, as we've learned in the past, mold, there's no hard set fast number to shut down a facility. Mold is an irritant, and it can affect people negatively, obviously. We're working on getting the remediation complete and getting the locker rooms fully operational. With that said, that's about all I've got.
But Jim, the rink is open.
The rink
and
is
people can go to public skating and everything else.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So thanks for that, Jim. And I appreciate you putting up with all the thought leadership that you've been getting over the past several days. Are we going to get to the point, not asking for a definitive, but are we going to get to the point as to what the root cause is? Because, again, it's like the Libby, throwing a paintbrush at the building ain't going to fix a problem. So are we going to get to the point of knowing what caused that mold to produce itself?
That follow-up question has been asked.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Keep us posted.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'm going to start down with Brian. We're going to do committee reports.
Okay. Let's see here. I had 2 ambulance, ad hoc ambulance committee meetings, and we have now, I think, we have one more round of questions that we're going to ask some of the players, and then we're going to start actually constructing a plan, I believe. I had a rehearsal dinner and a wedding. Oh, those weren't town. Those were for my son. We had a solar grant acceptance on Friday. We had the interviews for the Abenaki director, and we have the meeting tonight. That's it.
Paul?
I spent a week in Prague, and it was really great. I enjoyed it. No word back on Turner, H.L. Turner for the assessment of the Libby yet. Just want to let people know, but it's in the works. I have attended ambulance committee meetings. I'm in need of some clarity there, as I think Brian is as well. I attended a police commission meeting, had conversations with about unions, since I sit on the negotiating team. And that's about all I've been doing for the past few weeks.
Okay, I had a Friends of Pop meeting, Friends of Pop Wayland. I met with Jim and the director of the library and the chairman of the board looking and talking about the library solar. I had 2 CIP meetings, and the CIP narrative is just about completed, and that should go off to the planning board. I had a last night Wolfeboro meeting, and we're in the process of fundraising. We need to raise $10,000 this year because we get no support for the fireworks from the town. I was at the interviews for the operation manager for the Abenaki complex. I was at a assessing Wolfeboro Waters Committee meeting, and they're going to write up a report on the assessments that they did this year. And I also attended Employees Day activities. Brad?
Yeah, we had a planning board meeting last night. We had a hazard mitigation meeting last week. And also enjoyed the Employee Appreciation Day. It was a great turnout and a great day, so that was it for me.
Dave?
Well, we had some talks with the two different unions. I think we all went through Pop Whalen.
That's right, we did to a Pop Island.
Appreciation Day to see where the mold was and how
Yep.
much of it there was. I didn't feel there was a lot, but certainly find out where it came from. Had a hazardous mitigation meeting, as Brad had mentioned. That was a Zoom meeting. And Appreciation Day was a nice day.
Okay, do I have any questions from the press?
She's left.
Okay. Smart. Public input?
Lucky you listen.
Yes, she can just turn us off.
Yeah.
Guess Alyssa didn't want to hear me. Bobby Budman, I just want to point out a couple things. One, I know it was over 3 hours ago when you were talking about the MS 434 and you voted not to use any of the funds. I just want to remind you and point out that last year we most likely defaulted on our budget over $368,000. So even a little bit coming back to the voters might be something you might want to reconsider and vote on. I know it's not the full $3.3 million, but even a little portion after you took out the ambulance, the warrant article going back in, it was a little bit. So that might be just a bone you throw at the citizens so we can see that there's a dent or an impact, because I know this year is going to be a little bit worse with the bonds coming due. That's just one thing. The second thing, in the spring, our representatives came before you and they talked about SWEP funds, and it was kind of a the sky is falling, the sky is falling. The sky wasn't falling. However, two of our representatives just filed I can't even speak now, a amicus brief, I can't even speak. Amicus, thank you. It's been a long night. To the Supreme Court, Representative Glenn Cordelli and Representative Katie Peternell joined 29 legislators arguing that to the New Hampshire Supreme Court wrongly decided the two Claremont cases in 1993 and 1997, which said that the state was responsible for adequate education. We have recently, last year, which is why they came before you, because of the Rand case and the Claremont case was being decided that they were going to up the adequate funding from that $4,100 up to, it was like $7,300. With this briefing, if it's decided on, that amount the state was paying right now is $4,100 per student for adequate education. So we pay currently, through our local taxes and SWEP taxes, we pay about 70%. That amount would go up to 100%. So we're talking about 30% more of our educational funding will be put onto the local property taxpayers. So now the sky is falling. Well, it's not falling in the fall, but now it's falling. And if you were not aware of it, it is something that you should consider when you're looking and coming into budget season, because if the court rules on this later this month, as they're supposed to, it is something you might want to be paying attention to. It's a significant amount of money. And the third issue, I know you know what it's about, but you'll see a warrant article. Thanks.
Okay. I need a motion to go into non-public session.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan, Brad, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.